Chapter 45. Lin Xian had heard of many attributes, but he had never heard of attributeless before. There's a benefit to attributeless spiritual energy. It can transform into any attribute of spiritual energy, and it can be fused with each other. Wine Lord said. If you have thunder attribute spiritual energy, then your thunderclap sword art will reach perfection. Really? Lin Xian was pleasantly surprised. If the thunderclap sword art reaches perfection, then how powerful would it be? However, you need to absorb a lightning origin or cultivate a lightning elemental cultivation technique. Only then can your sword art reach perfection, Lord Alcohol said. After the inner sect selection, I'll go look for a thunder attribute cultivation technique or a thunder source. Lin Xian decided in his heart. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. Today was the day of the inner sect selection. Tens of thousands of outer sect disciples started to move towards the testing area. Lin Xian also carried the crimson flame sword on his back and walked out of his house. Outside the house, the sky was cloudy and clear. The huge square was filled with countless disciples. Their faces were flushed with excitement. I wonder how many people will be able to pass the first round? Someone asked with concern. I hope I'll be able to pass. Look, it's Jianghu. Many outer sect disciples exclaimed. He's one of the 4 heroes. In the crowd, Jianghu was dressed in white. He was leading a group of Xinwei group disciples as he stood arrogantly. Duan Fei is here too. Another exclamation sounded. Fuck, the 4 heroes of the outer sect are all here today. Even if I can't pass the first round, it'll be worth it. In another direction, the handsome young man, Duan Fei, stood with a smile on his face. He was surrounded by many female disciples. His delicate face and graceful figure made many male disciples spit fire in their hearts. Duan Fei smiled as he greeted the beauties. He casually glanced at Jianghu. Jianghu was also staring at Duan Fei. When their eyes met, sparks flew in the air. The two of them belonged to different forces. Jianghu hated this pretty boy who was popular with women, while Duan Fei disliked this cold young man. Hence, the two of them had a bad relationship. When you're defeated, I'll see which female disciple will still surround you. Jianghu said with a cold snort. Shen or my goddess. In the distance, a young girl in green slowly walked over. Her light and agile temperament made her seem like a fairy walking in the mortal world. Duan Fei and Jianghu looked at the girl in green at the same time. Duan Fei nodded with a smile, but Jianghu expression was somewhat strange, and his gaze was somewhat evasive. Shen bowed to the two of them. Then, a group of young girls greeted her, and she stood in another direction. At this moment, a group of youths from the southern district also walked over excitedly. Lin Xian wore a black robe and carried a dark red greatsword on his back. There was a faint smile on his delicate face and he looked extremely spirited. Older brother Xian, you must make it to the 3rd stage. When the time comes, we'll cheer you on. Little Fatty Ding said while dancing with joy. Little Fatty, I don't need you to say that. Older brother Xian will definitely enter the 3rd stage. Furthermore, older brother Xian will definitely succeed in entering the inner sect. These youths chattered non-stop. The whole process was very joyous. Wow. So many beauties. Little Fatty Ding's eyes, which were like door slits, suddenly widened as saliva continuously flowed down. It would be great if I could marry one. Little Fatty Ding muttered. The youths accompanying him also looked like pigs, but when they heard Little Fatty Ding's words, they all revealed looks of disdain. Little Fatty, stop dreaming. Go home and hug your doll to sleep. Lin Xian's right neighbor Ho Xiao said. The doll was a cotton doll. Little Fatty Ding hugged it to sleep every day. These disciples often joked about this matter. Don't be complacent. When older brother Xian becomes an inner sect disciple, he will definitely introduce one to me. Little Fatty Ding was not convinced. Lin Xian smiled and said, Don't worry, when the time comes, I will find you a fairy to be your wife. A group of youths walked into the square laughing, but the passers-by revealed looks of disdain. Diske. A group of bumpkins still want to enter the inner sect, overestimating themselves. They're probably still dreaming. In a while, the 1st stage will shatter their dreams. Lin Xian and the others stepped onto the square and sighed once again. The square stretched as far as the eye could see, as if there was no end to it. In front of them was a majestic palace surrounded by multicolored light, like an immortal palace. Here Lin Xian saw Jianghu and Duan Fei. The latter directly ignored him, while Jianghu revealed a cruel smile. Lin Xian did not bother with them. All the grudges could be settled in the arena. There was no need to waste his energy now. He slowly closed his eyes sharpening. However, not long after, he was shaken awake by the people beside him. Shangguan Luyun. It's Shangguan Luyun. Little Fatty Ding excitedly pulled Lin Xian. His expression was even more excited than seeing a peerless beauty. The surrounding friends were also excited as they stared unblinkingly at that figure. He is one of the 4 heroes of the outer sect, and he is also the #1 person on the outer sect rankings. It is said that his strength is even stronger than some inner sect disciples. Even Jiang Yulong, Duan Fei and the rest are suppressed by him. Lin Xian was surprised. He turned his head and saw a person walking over from outside the square. This person was dressed in black and walked over step by step expressionlessly. Unlike the other geniuses, he did not have a group of supporters behind him, nor were there any beauties like bees or butterflies. Instead, he was alone. One person, like the sky, suppressed everyone to the point that they could not raise their heads. After he arrived, all the noise disappeared. Even Duan Fei, who had been smiling, had a cold expression as he looked at him with some hostility. Jiang Yulong gripped the sword in his hand tightly. His knuckles turned pale from the force. He stood in the middle of the square. The people around him subconsciously avoided him. No one could withstand his aura. It was as if he was born to be a king and needed everyone to look up to him. After a long while, someone dared to whisper. The surrounding atmosphere gradually returned to normal. At this moment, the clouds in the sky churned. In an instant, a strong wind blew, causing people's clothes to flutter. Everyone looked up in horror and saw a person standing on top of the clouds. It was a middle-aged man in purple robes. He stood on top of the clouds and coldly looked down as if he was a high and mighty god. Flying in the air. Lin Xian's pupils constricted. He felt a huge pressure slowly being released from the middle-aged man in purple robes. It was as if an invisible hand was pressing down on him, making him feel suffocated. The middle-aged man in purple robes waved his hand. The clouds in the sky turned into a huge hand and pressed down on the void. In the next moment, everyone felt the ground shake as if there was an earthquake. What followed was a rumbling sound. When the surroundings returned to normal, the disciples found that there was a huge mountain on the side of the palace. It appeared like a dream in front of everyone. This mountain is called Thundercloud Mountain. It has a total of 99 floors. It is the first stage of the selection. You will be qualified to enter the next stage after crossing this mountain. The middle-aged man in purple robes in the clouds said loudly, spreading throughout the square. Chapter 46. With the purple-robed middle-aged man's order, the entire square was in an uproar again. Countless disciples used their movement techniques and ran towards Thundercloud Mountain, afraid that they would be a step too late and be beaten to it by others. Plop, plop. Most of the first batch of disciples who ran up Thundercloud Mountain suddenly knelt on the stone steps. Their originally rosy faces instantly turned pale. What's going on? Many disciples didn't understand what was going on, but when they stepped onto the first stone step, they immediately understood. A huge force pressed down on everyone like a mountain that wanted to crush them. Soon, some disciples couldn't hold on any longer. The spirit energy in their bodies had been exhausted while resisting the pressure, and they fell weakly on the stone steps. In the next moment, a white light rose from under their feet. Then, with a flash of white light, these disciples disappeared. Although they didn't know where they went, one thing was certain: they had been eliminated. Only by completing the 99 stone steps under this huge pressure could they be considered to have passed. Humph! A bunch of idiots. Some of the stronger disciples sneered. Not long after, nearly 80% of the outer court disciples were eliminated. Only a few people were left, and some disciples had not stepped onto the stone steps. It's about time, let's go. Jiang Yulong and the others walked forward and began to climb the stone steps. On the other side, Lin Xian and the disciples of the southern district also stepped onto the stone steps. So heavy. Ding Xiaoping gritted his teeth and said, "Damn it, I'm about to be squashed." Ho Xiaoping cursed. Inject your spirit energy into your entire body and pay attention to your consumption. Lin Xian didn't feel that it was too strenuous. He didn't remind his companions. First step, second step, third step. After the 10th step, the pressure suddenly increased. Ding Xiaoping and the others couldn't hold on any longer and turned into white light and dissipated. Brother Xian, you must pass. The voices of Ding Xiaoping and the others echoed nearby. Lin Xian nodded and set off alone. He moved forward quickly, attracting the attention of the surrounding people. Fuck. Where did this fierce person come from running so fast? Someone was surprised. Idiot, wait until your spirit energy runs out and you cry. There were also some that were disdainful. Besides testing the outer court disciples' strength, the first test also tested their perseverance, strategy, and other external conditions. Those with high strength could naturally leave quickly. As for those with average strength, as long as they maintained the production and consumption of their spiritual energy and endured the pressure, they would eventually succeed. However, it was uncertain whether these disciples would be able to endure it. Ranked first was Shangguan Luyun. He had his hands behind his back and rushed forward as if he was flying. Occasionally he would stop, but he would quickly move again. Behind him were Duanfei, Jianghu and the others. These people also far surpassed the other disciples, but the expressions on their faces were not relaxed. Wine Lord suddenly said, "Hee, every 10 levels will double the pressure. At the end it will be 9 times the pressure. Moreover, this pressure is different for everyone. The stronger you are, the more pressure you will feel. Looks like this isn't just a simple test of strength. There's also potential, perseverance and many other aspects. Everyone's results are different." Lin Xian was stunned. He looked at the figure in first place and for the first time his expression changed. "Yes, this is a battle with yourself. Break through your own limits and you will be able to enter the next test," Wine Lord said. "Then let's do it," Lin Xian said in a deep voice. When they reached the 40th step, all the disciples' speed generally slowed down. Many people were recovering their spiritual energy on the spot. There was no other way. This was equivalent to 4 times the pressure, and no one was an exception. Ranked first was still Shangguan Luyun. He stood like a javelin on the 63rd step, silently recovering his spiritual energy. Below him was Duanfei 57th step. Jiang Yulong 55th step. Xin 55th step. Lin Xian stood on the 43rd step. His face was a little pale but his breathing was not chaotic. It seemed that he was not tired but he did not continue to go up. This was because when he stepped on the 40th step, Wine Lord's voice sounded in his heart. He told him that the stone steps contained a weak power of thunder and lightning. This mountain is called Thundercloud Mountain. It's not strange that it contains the power of thunder and lightning. Wine Lord said, "Little Xinzi, your opportunity has arrived. As long as you absorb the power of thunder and lightning and refine it into your spiritual energy, you will have thunder attribute spiritual energy." Lin Xian obeyed and stayed on each step for a period of time. According to the method provided by Wine Lord, he silently absorbed the power of thunder and lightning from the stone steps. A blue arc of lightning came out from the stone steps and drilled into Lin Xian's feet. It entered his body and crazily swam around. After the blue arc of lightning entered Lin Xian's body, it was like a fierce tiger returning to the mountain. It crazily ran around. The power of thunder and lightning was released continuously, causing Lin Xian to grimace in pain. "You want to challenge senior brother Jiang with this little ability? I advise you to get lost." On the side, a Divine Might Group disciple proudly overtook Lin Xian and mocked him to his heart's content. "You can't even withstand this little pressure. You are indeed trash." Lin Xian closed his eyes and concentrated. He was completely unaware of what was happening outside. He was concentrating the spiritual energy in his body to block the arc of lightning. That Divine Might Group disciple saw that Lin Xian had no reaction and thought that he had accepted his fate. He coldly snorted and went higher. At this moment, within Lin Xian's body, the blue arc of lightning was wrapped into a ball by the green spiritual energy and temporarily isolated. Lin Xian inwardly let out a sigh of relief. He curiously observed the blue arc of lightning. Wine Lord said from the side, "Looking at its power, the grade of this thunder and lightning isn't too weak. Fortunately, it's only a strand and not the entire thunder source. Otherwise, with your current cultivation you wouldn't be able to subdue it." "What should I do now?" Lin Xian asked. "Refine this strand first," Wine Lord instructed. "Use the Long Life Secret Arts fusion word technique to fuse it into your spiritual energy." Lin Xian indicated that he understood. He then used the Long Life Secret Art to slowly melt the power of the thunder and lightning. Outside Thundercloud Mountain, more and more disciples overtook Lin Xian. Among them were quite a number of Divine Might Group disciples. When they saw Lin Xian they looked at him with disdain. Some of the disciples who heard that Lin Xian wanted to challenge Jiang Yulong shook their heads after seeing Lin Xian's performance. "Humph, you still want to fight with our Divine Might Group? You don't know your place." On the 50th stone platform Yen Kong sneered. "Wait till we become inner sect disciples. We can crush him with one hand." On the 49th step, Hua Yangping's eyes flashed with a vicious glint. At this moment, Lin Xian opened his eyes and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Then he stepped onto the 44th step. He's moving, he's moving. The disciples who were resting nearby all turned their heads. They wanted to see for themselves the strength of the legendary young man who could go against the Divine Might group. However, to their surprise, Lin Xian stood on the 44th step and closed his eyes again. He's smiling like this after going up one more step. What a weirdo. Chapter 47. Time passed bit by bit and everyone climbed higher and higher. Shengguan Luyun, who was in first place, had already reached the 85th step. His hands were no longer behind his back, but his entire body was suffused with spiritual light. He walked up step by step. It was clear that the pressure of 8 times was not easy for him. The person in second place was far behind him. Duan Fei stood on the 71st step, his handsome face covered in sweat. He gritted his teeth and looked at the figure in front of him. Once again he moved his feet with difficulty. Jianghu, who was following closely behind him, panted heavily. He said hatefully, "I will definitely reach there before you." Lin Xian stood on the 55th step. He had already absorbed a lot of the power of thunder and lightning. The spiritual power in his body had turned into a bluish color, and from time to time, electric arcs would flash. Crackle. A small portion of the power of thunder and lightning exploded in Lin Xian's hand, shaking his arm until it was numb. As expected of one of the most violent powers in the world. Lin Xian rubbed his arm. He had just merged with it and could not fully control it. When I finish the 99th step of the stone platform, I should be able to convert all the spiritual power in my body into the power of thunder and lightning, Lin Xian said with a smile. The spiritual power in his body was now abundant. Lin Xian. Just as he was about to reach the 56th step, a weak voice suddenly came from behind him. "It's you." Lin Xian turned around. I realized that it's actually that shy girl, Yin Qingyi, behind me. Yin Qingyi wiped the sweat from her forehead with the back of her hand and said softly, "Hurry up and go. I can do it myself." Lin Xian smiled. "Do your best. I believe that you will catch up to me soon." With that, he stepped onto the 56th step and closed his eyes again. When he opened his eyes again, he realized that Yin Qingyi was standing at the side and secretly watching him. "You're awake," Yin Qingyi said with a red face. Let's go." Lin Xian stepped onto the next step again. Yin Qingyi, who was beside him, followed suit. After a few times, Lin Xian realized that Yin Qingyi was always in sync with him. It was not strenuous at all. Although Lin Xian was walking slowly, he was now able to quickly absorb and digest the tiny blue electric arcs after so many fusions. His current speed had left many people behind, but Yin Qingyi was still able to keep up with him. Lin Xian smiled and stepped onto the next stone step with her. By the time he reached the 79th stone step, more than 90% of Lin Xian's spiritual energy was of the lightning attribute. At this time, most of the people in front of him had already passed. When the first person successfully passed, the first stage would enter a countdown. After 2 hours it would end. The other disciples who had already passed the level were sitting on top of the mountain to rest, and they were looking at the disciples who were still climbing with a proud expression. "Look, it's that Lin Xian. He actually dares to challenge senior brother Jianghu." Among the disciples below, Lin Xian received the most attention. He's only climbed to the 79th step now. Looks like his strength isn't that great? Many people were puzzled. Lin Xian ignored those people and stepped onto the 80th step. In the next moment his body shook. A golden electric arc drilled into his body, causing the blue electric arcs to riot. Not good. Lin Xian's expression changed. He could clearly sense the power contained in this golden electric arc. It was much stronger than all the blue electric arcs that he had merged with before. If he was not careful, he could be consigned to eternal damnation. Quick, look at that trash's face. I'm dying of laughter. Many disciples of the Shenwei group pointed at Lin Xian and laughed. He had just reached the 80th step and he was already like this. They reckoned that Lin Xian would not be able to finish the rest of the stone steps. Many disciples shook their heads. At the top of the mountain, other than Shengguan Luyun, who was sitting alone with his eyes closed, everyone else was staring at the disciples below. Jiang Yulong looked at Lin Xian with disdain. What a piece of trash. He didn't even have the right to make me attack. Tang Yu stared anxiously. Her big eyes flashed. This can't be. How can this bastard be so weak? When she saw Yin Qingyi beside Lin Xian, she could not help but pout and snort. Are you okay? Yin Qingyi saw that Lin Xian's face was pale. She used her hand to tug at the corner of Lin Xian's clothes. In the next moment, a faint golden electric current rushed towards her and quickly touched her small hand. Ah! Yin Qingyi cried out softly. The tip of the long sword in her hand was pointed downwards. Countless strange runes quickly formed around her, transmitting the golden electric current to the ground. All these things happened in an instant. The other disciples did not notice at all. Even if they did, they would not care. Who would care about a disciple who could only stop at the 80th step? However, above the clouds there were a few figures sitting cross-legged. One of them was the middle-aged man in purple robes. He suddenly opened his eyes and frowned. The thunder and lightning of Thundercloud Mountain seems to be a little violent. Violent? What violent? Lei Yunzi, you are too sensitive. How could those little guys below cause such a disturbance in Thundercloud Mountain? The figure beside him said. He was also a middle-aged man, but he had a small mustache. Lei Yunzi used his consciousness to scan again. He did not find anything unusual. Only then did he dispel the doubts in his heart. Lin Xian, who was below, slowly opened his glasses. A golden light flashed across his eyes. It was too dangerous just now. The golden electric arc almost exploded in his body. However, he managed to suppress it in the end. The power of thunder and lightning behind is too violent. With your current strength, it's best not to absorb it anymore. Wine Lord reminded. Okay. Lin Xian nodded secretly. The spiritual power in his body had completely transformed into the thunder and lightning attribute. There was also a trace of golden light. Its power was twice as strong as before. I didn't hurt you just now, did I? Lin Xian looked at Yin Qingyi apologetically. Yin Qingyi shook her head. Suddenly her expression changed slightly. Oh, it's almost time. Then let's go, Lin Xian said. The two of them began to climb with all their might. However, Lin Xian had merged with the thunder and lightning of Thundercloud Mountain. The pressure did not affect him at all. Although Yin Qingyi walked slowly, it did not seem to be strenuous. Are you a sword array master? Lin Xian looked at Yin Qingyi's strange sword technique and asked. Yes. Yin Qingyi still held her sword in a reverse grip. The tip of the sword was pointed downwards. A translucent sword array formed around her, enveloping the two of them. This can transfer the pressure to other places, Yin Qingyi explained. The two of them walked at a leisurely pace. It did not seem like a test at all. It was more like a couple taking a stroll. Finally, before the time was up, the two of them stepped onto the last step and passed the test. They wasted so much time. What a waste. Some of the disciples of the Divine Might group said disdainfully. I advise some people to get lost. They came up so late. I'm afraid they can't pass the second stage. Chapter 48. Lin Xian's strength was beyond everyone's expectations. Although the disciples were indignant, they did not dare to make a move. They snorted coldly and turned away. Not long after Lin Xian arrived, the time for the first stage was up. The 99 stone steps were covered by clouds and became hazy. In the sky, the purple-robed middle-aged man appeared again. With a wave of his sleeve, hundreds of streaks of black light scattered and rushed towards the crowd. Lin Xian reached out with lightning speed and caught the object flying towards him. He discovered that it was a black token with the number 135 written on it. He looked at Yin Qingyi's token and realized that her number was 134. He estimated that he should be the 135th person to pass the first stage. I didn't expect that out of the tens of thousands of disciples, only a little more than 100 would pass the first stage. This selection is really strict. Lin Xian sighed. Congratulations on passing the first stage. Next, you will proceed to the second stage. The purple-robed middle-aged man in the cloud said, Go down the mountain. Someone will tell you what to do there. The crowd descended the mountain. When everyone reached the flat ground, Thundercloud Mountain behind them emitted a loud boom and then slowly disappeared. The others did not feel much about it, but Lin Xian looked at it reluctantly. Ah, there are still so many golden electric arcs that I haven't had time to absorb. Shaking his head, Lin Xian suppressed the matter at the bottom of his heart and looked ahead. All disciples, go to the Central Martial Arts Arena. A clear voice sounded in everyone's ears. Then, the disciples who had passed the first stage walked towards the Central Martial Arts Arena. Looks like the second stage is an arena competition, Lin Xian thought to himself. Hey you bastard. Why are you so slow in the first stage? Tang Yu deliberately slowed down in front. When she reached Lin Xian's side, she asked angrily. Oh, I'm sorry. I've dragged senior brother Lin down, Yin Qingyi said softly beside Lin Xian. It's not like that. Lin Xian quickly comforted Yin Qingyi and explained to Tang Yu, I was too excited yesterday and didn't sleep well. With two beauties accompanying him, Lin Xian once again attracted the attention of the crowd. Many male disciples stared at him fiercely. If looks could kill, Lin Xian would have died 1,000 times over. The central martial arts practice field was very spacious. When Lin Xian and the others arrived, they discovered that many people had already gathered here. In the north was a golden viewing platform. Seated on it were some elders of the sect. On both sides of the golden viewing platform, there were many ordinary viewing platforms. They were spread out in a fan shape and were filled with people. As far as the eye could see, there was a sea of people, and it was extremely lively. Lin Xian and the other 140 outer sect disciples stood in front of the stage quietly waiting. However, the lively atmosphere had already ignited their fighting spirit. Who wouldn't want to defeat a strong enemy in front of so many people and display their heroism? Moreover, this was the inner sect selection. If they performed well, they might catch the eye of one of the inner sect elders. Thinking of this, the youths were excited. Soon, streams of light flashed and a majestic aura surged. A few figures landed on the arena. Their bodies were glowing with a dazzling light, like flames dancing. The long robes on their bodies fluttered in the absence of wind. Every one of them was like a god descending to earth. The entire martial arts practice field suddenly quieted down. Lin Xian felt as if a mountain was pressing down on him. The spiritual energy in his body boiled as he tried his best to resist the pressure. Whether it was Lin Xian or the other outer sect disciples, their faces turned pale as they looked at the figures on the stage in horror. Seeing this scene, the middle sect disciples must have known the content of the second round. On the stage, a middle-aged man with a square face said, "That's right. The second round is the arena battle. The number on the token in your hand represents your ranking in the first round. Each ranking will have a corresponding result and reward. The second round is the same. Now let's talk about the rewards for the second round. First place will be rewarded with a pure spirit pill, a mid-mystic rank martial art, and a human rank artifact. Second place will be rewarded with a low mystic rank martial art and a small yellow pill." Yes. All the disciples sucked in a breath of cold air. A mystic rank martial art and a human rank artifact. These things were extremely tempting to martial artists. Moreover, there was a pure spirit pill. All the disciples would go crazy for it. What is a pure spirit pill? Lin Xian didn't understand. Country bumpkin. Tang Yu once again looked down on him. A pure spirit pill is a third-grade pill. The spirit power it contains is extremely pure. If an ordinary pulse condensation stage martial artist swallows it, they can instantly break through to the next stage. Moreover, if a pulse condensation stage martial artist swallows it, it can greatly increase their chances of entering the spirit sea realm. This is a treasure that all pulse condensation stage martial artists desire. Increasing one's cultivation by one stage and increasing the chances of entering the spirit sea realm. Lin Xian sucked in a deep breath. He must obtain such a good thing. Not only Lin Xian but the other disciples' faces were also red. They couldn't wait to start the competition. The square-faced middle-aged man saw that the atmosphere had been stirred up and smiled. Your ranking now represents the number of this round. If you are selected by the judges, you will go to the arena battle. Also, the first round's reward is that the top 10 do not need to participate in the first round. Now the second round begins. 5 middle-aged men with profound cultivation stood on the 5 arena stages and began to draw lots. Everyone enviously looked at the top 10 of the first round and prayed that their opponents in the first round would be weak. Not long after, the 5 judges began to announce the competitors. First arena, number 38 vs number 53. Second arena, number 77 versus number 63. The 10 disciples who were called out went up the arena stages and prepared for the competition. Although the rankings in the first round were different, it didn't mean that number 38 would definitely be able to defeat number 39. After all, the first round was only a test of perseverance and potential. It couldn't directly reflect a martial artist's actual combat level. Sure enough, there was an upset in the first match. Number 53 defeated number 38 and obtained victory, advancing to the next round. Lin Xian and the others retreated to the side to watch. Shangguan Luyun directly sat down cross-legged and began to cultivate. Probably in his opinion, none of these people were his opponent. Soon, the competition on the arena stages finished. The judges called out the names again and this time, Lin Xian was one of them. Number 135 versus number 88. On the fifth arena, Lin Xian calmly walked up the arena stages. His opponent was already standing on the arena stages. Too cool. My luck is off the charts. I can actually fight against number 135. Looks like I can easily win this time. This was an ordinary-looking youth. He looked at Lin Xian with eyes full of pride. Lin Xian's face was calm. No joy or sadness could be seen. Chapter 49. On the fifth ring, Lin Xian vs. Jianghu. Hee kid, consider yourself unlucky to meet me. Jianghu laughed wildly. If you were willing to admit defeat, perhaps you would suffer less. Lin Xian was expressionless, carrying a dark red greatsword on his back. He looked at Jianghu and said, "You talk too much nonsense. Kid, since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish." Jianghu was furious. He slapped his scabbard and the longsword came out. He turned into a ray of light and rushed towards Lin Xian. Good sword technique. Lin Xian raised his eyebrows. As expected of a disciple who passed the first round, your skills are indeed extraordinary. This sword technique already has a hint of sword force, incomparably sharp. Before the sword arrived, the sword chi had already arrived. Lin Xian was as immovable as a mountain. When the sword was about to arrive, he suddenly made a move. His palm was as fast as lightning and slapped the sword. Suddenly, the long sword that was stabbing towards Lin Xian deviated by 3 centimeters. Lin Xian did not stop. He flipped his palm, clasped his 10 fingers and flicked the sword. Ding! A clear sound rang out. A fierce force flowed along the sword and into Jianghu's arm. As if hit by a heavenly hammer, Jianghu's palm cracked. The long sword flew out of his hand and broke into several pieces in the air, scattering on the ground. Jianghu held his right hand and retreated. There was no longer any arrogance in his eyes. He finally understood why Lin Xian was expressionless. It was because the two of them were not on the same level. I lost. He seemed to have lost his strength. Number 135 wins. The referee's voice rang out. What happened? Why is it over? Those who looked at the second ring asked, wanting to know what happened. What? Flicking the long sword with a finger and injuring Jianghu? Are you kidding? Jianghu is the 88th disciple. No, I must watch number 135's next match. Just as those disciples were discussing, a deafening shout came from the fifth ring. Senior brother Lin is mighty. Brother Xian is handsome. Brother Xian took first place in one go. On the stands near the fifth ring, all the disciples of the southern district sat. There were also some disciples who often sparred with Lin Xian. When they saw that Lin Xian won in one move, they cheered. Other than the core members of the 3 major powers and the 4 heroes of the outer sect, there were very few disciples who could win so many cheers. Many disciples turned their heads to watch. Looks like that trash is very popular. Yin Kong sneered. Don't worry about him. He won't amount to much. Our goal is to suppress the combat group. Jiang Yulong didn't care about Lin Xian at all. Lin Xian returned to the resting area. At this moment, the battle on stage number 2 had yet to end. The battle group disciples wielding battle sabers and the divine might group disciples wielding longswords were locked in battle. The 2 figures were as fast as ghosts, and the sky was filled with their afterimages. Ordinary disciples simply couldn't see what was happening, and only some of the stronger disciples were able to catch their movements. Lin Xian was naturally able to see their movements clearly. Moreover, he also discovered that although the divine might group's disciples' swordsmanship was graceful, they were surrounded by their opponents. Most likely they would be defeated within 10 moves. Congratulations, the disciples of the battle group are about to win, Lin Xian said to Tang Yu with a smile. Tang Yu winked mischievously and didn't say anything. However, the Shenwei group's disciples nearby couldn't bear to listen any longer. Brat, what do you know? How dare you spout nonsense? That's right. I'm looking forward to it. Near the golden spectator stands, a youth in black laughed. What, you want to rope him in? The youth beside him said. I'm just looking. The youth in black didn't say much. Instead he looked at the arena. Kid, looks like there are many people supporting you. I wonder if they'll be sad when you're defeated? Shui Huaqing sneered. In his opinion, Lin Xian dared to steal his limelight. He was simply courting death. I finally know why you all want to join the divine might group. Lin Xian said expressionlessly. What? Shui Huaqing asked subconsciously. Because you're all idiots. Will you die if you don't talk nonsense during a fight? Lin Xian rolled his eyes. Chapter 50. Shui Huaqing shouted angrily, and a light yellow spirit power burst out from his body, covering his entire body in an instant. The surrounding air waves spread out. In his palm, a ball of yellow spirit power spun at high speed, forming a sharp wind blade, extremely overbearing. Thousand-blade palm. Shui Huaqing pushed his palms towards Lin Xian, and the sharp wind from his palms was like thousands of blades, making a deep sound. Lin Xian was as steady as Mount Tai, and his right fist suddenly punched out. This punch used all the muscles in his body, and the power was concentrated on his fist according to the thunderclap sword art. The two figures collided, and a terrifying energy wave swept out in all directions. The audience in the front stage was blown back by this gale. On the stage, Lin Xian was as tall as a mountain, and his face was as calm as water without a trace of change. On the other hand, Shui Huaqing was pushed back a few steps, and his breathing became rapid. The audience in the stands felt a chill, especially the disciples of the Godly Might group. They were clear about Shui Huaqing's strength. He was at the peak of the 5th level of the pulse condensation period, and his thousand-blade palm was practiced to the large success stage. Under normal circumstances he could even contend against a 6th level pulse condensation period disciple, but now he was pushed back by a single punch. Duan Fei, Jiang Yulong and the others were also surprised. Even the silent Qianna looked at Lin Xian a few more times. If we don't get rid of this kid, he'll be a disaster. Jiang Yulong suddenly remembered his agreement with Lin Xian. He had forgotten about it, but Lin Xian's stunning performance made him remember. Damn this guy, how can he be so strong? Shui Huaqing's face was ugly. He had already said that he wanted Lin Xian to crawl out of here. If he couldn't do it, then he would lose face. Yellow wind step. Shui Huaqing ran quickly and his body became blurry. Gradually his afterimage appeared on the stage. Wind dashed the world. Shui Huaqing, who was moving at high speed, attacked again, fusing the wind from his palms into his movement technique. Originally, his movement technique was a mid-grade yellow rank martial art, and his palm technique was also a mid-grade yellow rank martial art, but when the two were combined, the power actually broke through the mid-grade yellow rank, and faintly had the power of a high-grade yellow rank martial art. This brat has some ideas. Jiang Yulong said solemnly. Lin Xian took a deep breath when he sensed the ferocious wind coming from the palm. Then he stomped his foot on the ground and dashed forward. Rolling thunder. His right fist punched out without any fancy moves. It was purely relying on brute force to crush his opponent. Boom. The palm wind that Shui Huaqing was so proud of couldn't even withstand a single blow from Lin Xian. It shattered like an exquisite porcelain. His body slid back more than 10 meters and flew out of the ring, falling to the ground. What powerful strength! Some of the disciples who had advanced began to pay attention to Lin Xian and secretly estimate his strength. Some of them had already regarded him as an opponent and began to search for his weakness. Duan Fei narrowed his eyes. He didn't expect that the little sword slave he met 3 months ago would have grown to such an extent. Looks like your Godly Might group situation isn't too good. Luo Yi laughed as he crossed his arms. Yan Kong's face was gloomy. He couldn't wait to go up and kill Lin Xian. Jiang Yulong's eyes flickered. No one knew what he was thinking. As for Shangguan Luyun, who was ranked first, he closed his eyes and pondered. It was as if nothing could attract his attention. The competition continued. The disciples on the ring fought with all their might. He stabbed out 1,300 times in a row. Even the void was trembling, but he didn't touch the corner of Duan Fei's clothes. After 1,300 sword strikes, Duan Fei sent him flying with a palm. In the 5th arena, Lin Xian's opponent was Luo Yi. Ha, brother Lin, I didn't expect you and I would have such a battle. Luo Yi laughed. Yeah. Lin Xian couldn't help but sigh. He remembered that when he first came to the duty hall, he got to know Luo Yi. Later on, Luo Yi's footwork aroused his interest. I hope senior brother Luo won't show mercy. Lin Xian said in a deep voice. Luo Yi was stunned. Usually when they were polite they would say that they hoped for mercy. However, Lin Xian actually said that he hoped for mercy. However, he knew that Lin Xian didn't want him to have any misgivings. Each sword had the force of 10,000 pounds. He did not take the initiative to attack, but assumed a defensive posture, blocking Luo Yi's sword moves one by one. The arena was filled with dazzling sword light and ear-piercing rumbles. Luo Yi's sword art became increasingly smooth. He had never displayed the misty ripple traceless sword to such an extreme realm. The sword art soared into the air and the sword was traceless. Every move had an ethereal feeling. He was completely integrated into the sword art, unable to extricate himself. He had been stuck in the great success realm for a long time, but could not break through. But now that stubborn bottleneck had loosened a little. At this time, if he was hit or Lin Xian was hit by him, this wonderful state would be interrupted, and Luo Yi would lose a chance to break through. However, with so many sword thrusts, not a single one injured Lin Xian. They were all blocked. Moreover, Lin Xian's moves were clearly coordinated, allowing his sword art to proceed smoothly. One attacked and one defended. The attack was incomparably fierce, dazzling, and the defense was watertight, as solid as Mount Tai. The disciples in the stands were stunned for a moment. They could not see this kind of incisive battle normally. Every move contained a wonderful change. Many disciples were delighted, as if they had comprehended something. However, there were also many disciples who could not understand the situation on the stage. Some of the members of the battle group were dancing with joy. Senior brother Luo is so powerful. His opponent has no strength to fight back. Senior brother Luo, go for it. Defeat him in one go. Just as the disciples of the battle group were cheering, the situation on the stage changed. With a boom, the long sword in Luo Yi's hand shone brightly, almost covering half of the stage. Sword hums were constantly emitted. Senior brother Luo is going to use a big move. Some disciples of the battle group who did not know what was going on shouted. When the sword was unleashed, the sky was filled with cold light. It was like the autumn shadow of a cold pond, chilling to the bone. On Luo Yi's long sword, there seemed to be something special condensed, causing its power to be more than doubled. Sword force again. The participating disciples were shocked. How can Luo Yi have sword force? Could it be that his sword art has reached the great perfection realm? Only a few outstanding disciples, such as the top 10 disciples and the elders, knew what happened just now. Damn it, this Lin Xian actually helped Luo Yi break through. Why is he so kind? Yan Kong gritted his teeth. Jiang Yulong's face was also ugly. Lin Xian's strength had once again exceeded his expectations. Moreover, there was another strong opponent in the battle group. How could he be happy? On the other hand, Duan Fei was smiling. He was in a good mood. Even the fairy-like Xin Qian took a few more glances at Lin Xian. She seemed to be very interested in him. After the sword light disappeared, Luo Yi's face was filled with excitement. He could not wait to roar to the sky. He could not remember how long it had been. His swordsmanship had not been able to improve, but now he had broken through to the perfection realm. How could he not be happy? However, he knew that all of this was thanks to the young man opposite him. Brother Lin, thank you. I Luo Yi will remember this favor. Lin Xian smiled. Your swordsmanship is very exquisite. A breakthrough is only a matter of time. In fact, Lin Xian did not go all out. Instead, he chose to help Luo Yi because he felt that Luo Yi was a good person. He was not as arrogant as the others. Moreover, Luo Yi's footwork had once broadened his horizons. Now it was nothing for him to help. Moreover, he could also feel the sword force brought about by different swordsmanship. He also had a new understanding of it. Wait until I fully comprehend the sword force. I will fight with you again. Luo Yi said seriously. The top 10 disciples are very strong. You have to be careful. This bold and unrestrained youth laughed heartily and then jumped down from the arena. The judge was also convinced by Lin Xian's bearing. He had never seen someone who took the initiative to help his opponent break through. Just based on this, Lin Xian was enough to make him look at him in a new light. Chapter 52. Number 135. Lin Xian wins. The referee's voice echoed in the martial arts practice field. In the stands, a group of disciples from the battle group were dumbfounded. They had no idea what had happened. In the following matches, Lin Xian defeated his opponents in just a few moves. He appeared to be very relaxed. Too strong. Does he have the strength to be in the top 20 of the outer list? Many disciples exclaimed. At this point, everyone had listed Lin Xian as a genius expert. Many disciples even looked forward to Lin Xian breaking the current situation. For example, becoming another top expert in the outer sect. It's too difficult. Although Lin Xian's performance is very powerful, there is still a gap between him and the outer sect's 4 heroes. Even if it's the top 10, he might not be able to squeeze in. Some people didn't think highly of Lin Xian. Not necessarily. Lin Xian doesn't even have spiritual power now. He must have reserved his strength. I think he definitely has the chance to reach the top 10. Maybe he's a body cultivator and his spiritual power isn't outstanding. Many people didn't believe that Lin Xian still had a strong spiritual power. If that was the case, he was too scary. Next match, Shangguan Luyun versus Yan Kong. Those who were discussing Lin Xian stopped talking. All of them looked at the first arena with burning eyes. Shangguan Luyun, the #1 disciple in the outer sect and the leader of the 4 heroes. He didn't belong to any faction, but no one dared to provoke him. Yan Kong's face was darker than charcoal. He couldn't help but curse. He wanted to forfeit, but due to his status he could only bite the bullet and go up. As the person in charge of the outer sect of the Divine Might group, if he lost without a fight, it would have a huge impact on the Divine Might group. Fortunately, he was also an expert ranked 9th. Although he couldn't defeat Shangguan Luyun, he believed that he could still hold on for a while. Whoosh! Yan Kong leaped up and landed on the arena. Opposite him, Shangguan Luyun was like a demon. He stood with his hands behind his back. He didn't even open his eyes. Arrogant, too arrogant. Yan Kong was trembling from head to toe. Even if his opponent was the first-ranked disciple, he was still the 9th-ranked genius. In addition, he was the person in charge of the outer sect of the Xinwei group. His status was incomparably noble. When had he ever been disregarded like this? Therefore, he used his strongest move right from the start, intending to teach this first place a lesson. 8 Directions Limitless Saber. Yan Kong slashed out with his saber. The saber aura came from all directions and surrounded Shangguan Luyun. This is a high-grade yellow-ranked martial art, and I've already practiced it to the large success stage. I don't believe you won't open your eyes. Yan Kong clenched his teeth and said, crack. Just as Yan Kong was secretly pleased with himself, Shangguan Luyun, who was standing in the middle, stretched out his palm and made a fist action. The blade aura in all directions shattered like a broken mirror. What? Yan Kong's face turned frighteningly pale. The disciples in the stands were also shocked by this move and forgot to cheer. Jianghu suddenly straightened his body, his cold eyes staring straight at Shangguan Luyun. Has this fellow improved again? I'm really looking forward to fighting with you. I want everyone to know that I'm the first in the outer sect. Duan Fei, Shin Chinner, and the others' eyes flickered. No one knew what they were thinking. On the golden stands, Elderly said in a deep voice, "This child is not bad." On the stage, Yan Kong watched his attack shatter in an instant. He didn't even have the ability to resist. Shangguan Luyun was like a dazzling divine spear, standing straight on the stage. His tightly shut eyes still didn't open. Boom. In the next moment, Yan Kong was directly sent flying by the condensed spiritual energy and fell outside the stage. Winner, Shangguan Luyun. Until the end of the match, the crowd regained their senses. They were completely shocked by Shangguan Luyun's imposing manner. Unfathomable. This was Lin Xian's evaluation. He didn't expect that there would be such a person in the outer sect. The world is so big. There are so many geniuses and geniuses. When you leave Yunzhou in the future, you'll find that the outside world is more exciting and the geniuses are stronger. Wine Lord said in Lin Xian's heart, let's not talk about others. A disciple from the Palace of War Gods in Zhongzhou can destroy the entire Yunzhou by himself. Lin Xian was stunned. It seemed that the outside world was more terrifying than he had imagined. When I have the chance, I must go to the Palace of War Gods to take a look. Lin Xian decided in his heart. The match continued. During this period, there were many exciting battles that intoxicated the crowd. However, a strange match attracted the attention of most people. Number 3 versus number 134. Jianghu versus Yin Qingyi. The difference between the two rankings was huge and it attracted everyone's attention. Many people asked about Yin Qingyi and only then did they remember that lucky disciple. I'm afraid her luck has come to an end after meeting Jianghu. Which one is Yin Qingyi? I must see. On the spectator stand, the disciples were looking forward to it. Don't force yourself. If you can't do it, just give up, Lin Xian said with concern. That's right. Jianghu is despicable. You'd better not fight, Tang Yu advised from the side. I want to give it a try, Yin Qingyi lowered her head and said softly. What? Tang Yu wanted to say something but was stopped by Lin Xian. Then all the best. Lin Xian's voice was very warm. It was like the noon sun that shone into the young girl's heart. Ah. Yin Qingyi lifted her small face and looked at Lin Xian in surprise. A trace of excitement appeared in her clear eyes. Yes. She nodded heavily. From the crowd, a skinny young girl walked out slowly and walked step by step towards arena number 5. She lowered her head and her small hands gripped the corner of her clothes tightly as she walked into the arena. It's a young girl? Jiang Yulong stood arrogantly in the arena. He snorted coldly and said, "Admit defeat. It's meaningless to compete with a low-level disciple like you." In the spectator stands, many people sympathized with Yin Qingyi because she was too weak. In front of Jiang Yulong she was like a tree that could break at any time. However, this seemingly weak young girl insisted, "Senior brother, please enlighten me. You don't know what's good for you." Jiang Yulong sneered. He pointed his finger like a sword and a bright red sword chi shot out from the tip of his finger. It whistled as it pierced towards Yin Qingyi. The crowd was nervous. They wanted to see how this weak young girl was going to dodge this fierce attack. Unexpectedly, Yin Qingyi did not dodge at all. Instead, she stabbed her long sword into the ground and her fingers formed a strange sword gesture. A translucent sword array appeared around her. There were faint runes flowing around it. As the young girl's hand gesture changed, a light screen formed in front of her and protected her well. Chi-chi. The red sword chi collided with the light screen and emitted the sound of ice and snow colliding. In the end, the two reached a stalemate and dissipated in the air at the same time. No one expected this weak young girl to be able to withstand Jiang Yulong's attack. Many people could not help but shout. Among them, the disciples of the battle group were even jeering and mocking Jiang Yulong. "Get lost." Jiang Yulong was already in a bad mood. Lin Xian's sudden emergence, Duan Fei's calmness and Shangguan Liuyun's unfathomable strength all made him feel a deep sense of danger. A ray of sword chi shot out like a red waterfall and rushed towards Yin Qingyi with a roar. "Ah!" The young girl exclaimed and hurriedly activated the sword array. However, she was quickly enveloped by the red light. Her weak body gradually flew into the sky. Amidst the audience's exclamations, her body gradually descended as if she was about to fall into the boundless darkness. Suddenly, a ray of sunlight pierced through the darkness. A pair of strong arms caught her. Immediately after, spiritual energy filled with vitality rushed into her body. Yin Qingyi slowly opened her eyes and whispered, "Lin Xian." After Lin Xian caught Yin Qingyi, he quickly injected his spiritual energy into her. He was terrifyingly calm, like a ferocious beast that was about to explode. Chapter 53. What? You can't even stand this little bit of pain? Jiang Yulong joked. "Kid, you better pray you don't meet me. Otherwise you'll end up miserable. You and I finally have a battle. When the time comes, I'll completely defeat you." Lin Xian supported Yin Qingyi back to the resting area. He actually dared to challenge Jiang Yulong? Too bold. Your news is outdated. This Lin Xian had already issued a challenge half a month ago. It seems like this time it's going to be a fight to the death. Everyone was discussing, but most of them were not optimistic about Lin Xian. Returning to the resting area, Lin Xian checked on Yin Qingyi's injuries. Fortunately, the sword formation had absorbed most of the power. Yin Qingyi was only sent flying by the aftershock and did not suffer too much damage. The competition continued and the top 8 were finally decided. Lin Xian successfully advanced. He could be the dark horse of this competition, attracting everyone's attention. Many disciples remembered this handsome youth with a dark red sword. His explosive moves and lonely mountain sword momentum were unforgettable. In the quarterfinals, the first match was between Shangguan Liuyun and Lu Ming. The silent Shangguan Liuyun still did not open his eyes. He defeated his opponent with just one move. This silent strength shocked everyone. It seemed that until now no one could make this youth take it seriously. The second match was a battle between two geniuses. Duan Fei versus Shen Qian. Both of them were part of the 4 heroes of the outer sect. Both of them were well liked by many disciples because of their outstanding looks. It could be said that both of them were evenly matched in terms of strength and reputation. Unfortunately, between the two of them, only one of them would be able to continue. Shen Qian was dressed in green. Her figure was graceful like a fairy descending to the mortal world. The falling flower mysterious jade palm was even more dazzling. A pair of slender hands were flawless like white jade. Palm shadows filled the sky like falling flowers. Falling flower mysterious jade palm. A high-grade yellow rank martial art. When practiced to the large success stage, it could cut through gold and break jade. It was impervious to fire and water. However, because it was easy to learn but difficult to master, it was ranked as one of the top 10 profound martial arts in the outer sect. However, not only had Shen Qian succeeded, but she had also reached the Great Circle. The palm shadows that filled the sky were like dancing petals, sparkling and translucent. However, Duan Fei knew that each of these beautiful petals contained fatal killing intent. Dozens of palm shadows lined up in the air, forming a huge jade palm that covered the sky. This is palm force. Many disciples exclaimed. Swords have sword force, palms also have palm force. When all martial arts are practiced to perfection, they will form a kind of force. Any martial arts that can form a force will be extremely powerful. Is this the strength of the four heroes of the outer sect? They are indeed terrifying. The disciples on the viewing platform exclaimed in surprise. Even some of the elders were looking over carefully. Duan Fei's expression was solemn as he continuously walked around the arena. His movement technique was very graceful, and he always passed through the layers of palm shadows without any injuries. His white robes fluttered in the wind, leaving behind a series of afterimages in the void. This was an extremely profound footwork. Compared to him, Luo Yi was simply like a beginner. Lin Xian stared at Duan Fei's figure and constantly compared it with his own footwork. In the end, he was surprised to find that Duan Fei's footwork seemed to have surpassed the Great Circle realm and reached a mysterious level. He carefully experienced it, and a pair of star-like eyes became more and more clear. At that moment, his heart was particularly clear, and he experienced something that was beyond the footwork itself. At that moment, the situation on the arena suddenly changed. The mysterious jade palm in the sky suddenly fell, like a giant palm seal that could destroy the world, enveloping the arena. Rumble. As the palm fell, the ground trembled. The rumbling sound shook the front row of disciples, and their faces turned pale and their bodies trembled. Gravel flew everywhere, and a deep palm print was left in the center of the arena. It was bottomless, and Duan Fei had disappeared. In the sky. A disciple exclaimed. In the sky, Duan Fei jumped high, stepped in the air and glided for a short time. Fuck. What kind of footwork is that? He can stay in the air for a short time. Everyone stood up excitedly and they were stunned. Even Shangguan Luyun, who meditated all year round, opened his eyes. His dark eyes stared at the white figure in the sky, and there was a flash of light in his eyes. On the golden grandstand, the elders exclaimed again and again, and they did not hide their admiration. I didn't expect there to be such a talented young man other than Shangguan Luyun. I'm afraid no one in the outer sect can beat him in terms of footwork, Elderly said with a smile. Yes, there are 2 seed-level disciples this time. It seems that our Black Heaven sect is going to prosper. The other elders also laughed. In the sky, Duan Fei took 7 consecutive steps, and his body left a stream of light in the air. At the same time, a long sword appeared in his hand. The sword light shone, and the sword chi soared into the sky. White feather sword. In the sky, countless sword lights seemed to have turned into white feathers, whistling and shooting toward the arena. Each of them was lifelike and as sharp as a knife. Xinxian also cried out. Her pair of jade palms were suffused with a green light, and the palm shadows that filled the sky collided with the white feathers, making clanging sounds. The 2 of them fought fiercely for hundreds of rounds. The exquisite moves in their hands were endless and it was amazing. On the entire second arena, there were pits of various sizes, and there was not a single place that was intact. In the end, Duan Fei's skills were better. He won the match with his ghostly footwork. When the 2 of them stepped down, there was a deafening applause and countless cheers from the grandstand. Everyone seemed to have gone crazy and they roared with all their might. Since the beginning of the match, this was the most thrilling match. There were no instant kills and there was no complete abuse. The 2 of them were evenly matched, so the fight was naturally interesting to watch. The cheers lasted for a long time before it stopped, and the referee announced the next match. Jiang Yulong vs. Wang Meng. The whole scene could be said to be one-sided. Jiang Yulong slashed 3 times in a row, and each slash was like a fire dragon. The horrifying high temperature made many people's expressions change. This is a fire attribute spirit power. An elder exclaimed. He actually condensed an attribute. It was no wonder that the elder was surprised. Ordinary disciples could only condense an attribute spirit power after entering the inner sect and learning a profound rank cultivation technique. Almost no one in the outer sect could condense it. Even Shangguan Luyun and the others did not show it. Of course, this could also be because they deliberately hid their strength. However, to be able to condense an attribute spirit power in the outer sect was enough to show Jiang Yulong's talent. Jiang Yulong's expression was wild, and his black hair danced wildly. His entire body was covered in a fiery red spirit light, as if a fire god had descended. 3 slashes sent the 7th-ranked opponent flying, showing his strength. Shangguan, the first place this time will be mine. Jiang Yulong pointed his flaming sword at Shangguan Luyun, and his voice was full of confidence. Whoosh! Shangguan Luyun opened his eyes again, like a sleeping beast that was gradually waking up. His cold eyes turned into two purple lights that shot toward the arena. Jiang Yulong was not afraid at all. His eyes condensed two fire dragons and rushed toward the purple light. Boom. The two collided in midair, and sparks flew in all directions as terrifying energy swept in all directions. He actually dares to challenge Shengguan Luyun. Is the outer sect's first place going to change hands? Chapter 54. As the two of them confronted each other, an invisible aura instantly shrouded the crowd, making it hard for them to breathe. You have the qualifications to make me fight. This was the first time Shengguan Luyun spoke. His voice was a little low, like a dull thunderclap hibernating in the clouds. Shengguan Luyun was a man of few words. With just a few words he went silent again. The purple light and invisible pressure dissipated like flowing water. Fight! 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 After a brief silence, the outer sect disciples in the stands burst into thunderous cheers. Of course they hoped that the two of them would fight. This kind of duel between geniuses could only be seen in the inner sect qualifiers. It was impossible to see it at any other time. However, they also knew that if they wanted the two of them to fight, they would have to wait until the finals. The disciples in the stands temporarily suppressed their excitement and waited for the next match. The next match, Lin Xian versus Hua Yangping. Hua Yangping, the genius disciple ranked 5th on the outer sect rankings, was second only to the outer sect's 4 heroes. He was in charge of the outer sect's law enforcement team and had extraordinary power. Some even suspected that his strength was very close to the outer sect's 4 heroes. His combat strength was almost invincible among those of the same level. Lin Xian was the dark horse of this competition. He went from the 135th place in the first round to the top 8. His strength was obvious to all and he was the idol of the ordinary disciples. Kid, I didn't expect to fight with you. Don't worry, I won't go easy on you. Hua Yangping's voice had a hint of ridicule. Back then his casual attack was blocked by Lin Xian, causing him to lose face. In the end he didn't even manage to catch him. Don't go easy on me. You don't even have a chance. Lin Xian said coldly. Lin Xian didn't have a good impression of this person. Back then he wanted to catch him indiscriminately. Lin Xian had already blacklisted him. Following the referee's order, Lin Xian pulled out the red flame sword from his back and slashed out. A lone mountain appeared. It was as heavy as 10,000 pounds, causing the void to buzz as it smashed towards Hua Yangping. Do you really think you're invincible with sword force? A mocking smile appeared on Hua Yangping's face. He pulled out the long sword from his waist and stabbed it into the ground. With a swipe of his finger, a black sword formation appeared beneath his feet. It was as black as ink and its shape resembled an abyss. Sword array. Lin Xian was stunned. He did not expect Hua Yangping to be a sword array master. After a moment of surprise, Lin Xian regained his composure. I don't care what you are. The sword in my hand can cut through everything. Within the black sword formation, Hua Yangping was smiling. He had enough confidence in this sword formation. Apart from the 4 heroes of the outer sect, no one else could break through his defense. With this formation he could be said to be invincible. Lin Xian, oh Lin Xian, I'll let you know that there are some people you can't afford to offend. Even if you have Elder Fang's support, I can still cripple you in the arena. Hua Yangping could almost see Lin Xian's helpless expression as he fell to the ground. Thinking of this he couldn't help but laugh wildly. At this moment in the resting area of the spectator stands, Yinqingyi looked nervous. Her small hands gripped the corner of her clothes tightly, and a trace of anxiety appeared on her pale face. She was also a sword array master, so she could clearly feel the terror of the black sword formation. Lin Xian, nothing must happen to you, Yinqingyi said to herself. Swoosh. Just when the red flaming sword was 1 meter away from Hua Yangping's head, the black sword formation suddenly emitted a black light. Strands of black sword chi intertwined with each other, forming a flashing sword chi defense. Boom. Lin Xian's sword carried the power of a mountain. The violent sword chi caused the surrounding air to whistle as if a real mountain was pressing down. The sword slashed down on the black sword chi defense. Countless chi waves rolled around the two of them. The power overflowed from the slash, leaving deep grooves in the ground. They were at least a foot deep, extending all the way to the bottom of the arena. One strike was so terrifying. However, the black sword chi only rolled violently a few times. Then, to the horror of the crowd, it remained intact. Ha! Lin Xian, is this your strongest attack? It's so weak. Hua Yangping laughed wantonly. He could now torture Lin Xian as he pleased. Captain Hua is mighty. In the spectator stands, a group of disciples from the law enforcement team cheered loudly. Get rid of that ignorant brat. Kill him in seconds. Finish him in one move. The disciples from the law enforcement team could not stop laughing. The other disciples could not help but sigh. Although he's a new dark horse, there's still a big gap between him and the veteran genius disciples. Yeah, which of the geniuses on the ranking list doesn't have a trump card? I'm afraid Lin Xian will lose this time. Is this what you're counting on? Lin Xian asked calmly. He did not show any signs of irritation when his attack failed. The attack just now was just a warm-up and he did not use much of his strength. Keep showing off. I'll make you kneel and beg for mercy later. Hua Yangping did not expect Lin Xian to be so calm. He was instantly enraged. To deal with you, 3 moves are enough. Lin Xian clenched the big sword in his hand again. I've already used 1 move. Now there are 2 more. Lin Xian's voice was not loud, but it clearly spread throughout the martial arts practice field. What? Did I hear wrongly? He wants to defeat Captain Hua in 3 moves? Asterisk 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 asterisk. He can't even break through his defense and he wants to win in 3 moves? The disciples from the law enforcement team cursed. Even some of the elite disciples looked suspicious. To be honest, they did not think highly of Lin Xian. Of course, they did not believe that he could win in 3 moves. Even Jiang Yulong sneered. His eyes were full of disdain. Idiot. Shangguan Luyun suddenly whispered. His voice was so low that only Jiang Yulong, Duan Fei and other genius disciples heard it. Shen Qianer's beautiful eyes were full of surprise. She did not expect that the always silent Shangguan would curse. Even Duan Fei could not help but shake his head. He did not know who Shangguan was cursing. In the arena, Lin Xian made another move. The dark red big sword was rusty, but under the rust, there was a strange red light surging. Lin Xian combined the Thunderclap Swordsmanship and the Lonely Mountain Swordsmanship, using the multiple forces of the Thunderclap Swordsmanship to activate the Lonely Mountain Swordsmanship. Boom! Lin Xian's sword hit the black sword array, bursting out a string of blazing sparks. His posture was exactly the same as before. Haha, don't waste your strength. Hua Yangping wanted to laugh loudly, but before he could finish his words, the black sword array changed. With a crack, visible cracks appeared on the sword chi emitted by the black sword array, and then spread out like a spider web. How is it possible? How can he break it? Hua Yangping's face changed greatly. Does he have the strength of the 4 heroes? He hurriedly mobilized the spiritual power in his body to control the sword array, wanting to quickly repair the cracks. However, before he could do anything, the 3rd sword slashed again. Lonely Mountain as one. This blow directly shattered the black sword curtain. Layers of hidden forces surged like waves, each stronger than the last. Hua Yangping was submerged in the mountain-like power and had no power to resist. The sword chi pierced out like a waterfall, whistling through the air. His sword was like an antelope hanging its horn, untraceable. Even the sound was very soft, making it impossible to guard against. Facing such a terrifying swordsman, Shangguan Luyun finally attacked with his spear. It was a simple stab without any fancy moves, but it was like a peerless overlord attacking with all his might. At that moment, everything in the world seemed to have disappeared, leaving only this spear. The spear was like a dragon. The purple spear seemed to have turned into a purple dragon bearing its fangs and brandishing its claws. It roared and dispersed all the strange and sharp sword lights. Furthermore, its imposing manner did not diminish as it pounced towards Duan Fei. Ka. There was a series of explosive sounds in the air. The vast spiritual energy rushed in front of Duan Fei and pierced through him. Ah! On the spectator stands, all the disciples exclaimed. Was it going to end like this? As if in response, the Duan Fei that was stabbed gradually faded and dissipated. Finally, he disappeared without a trace. Afterimage. Lin Xian muttered. Using his own speed and combined with his spiritual energy, he left an afterimage on the spot while his real body was hidden. It's indeed a good method. His gaze was like lightning as he quickly scanned the stage and finally found Duan Fei's figure. This guy is so fast. Lin Xian exclaimed. Shangguan Luyun naturally also discovered Duan Fei's figure. His spear trembled and pierced out again. Pooh. Every time Shangguan Luyun attacked with his spear, it would pierce through a Duan Fei. However, they were all afterimages. Duan Fei's afterimages were pierced one by one and disappeared. In the end, the entire stage was filled with Duan Fei's figure and Shangguan Liuyun's spear. The disciples in the spectator stands watched nervously, afraid that they would miss any detail. This terrifying speed had already exceeded their imagination. On the golden spectator stands, a few elders laughed out loud. These little fellows are really not bad. Their potential is limitless. On the stage, Shangguan Luyun stood with his spear like a demon god. His gaze quickly swept across his surroundings. Suddenly, he twisted his body and the purple spear turned into a cold light as it pierced to the right behind him. Clang clang. A figure was shaken out as Duan Fei retreated in a sorry state. There was a trace of surprise on his face. The game is over, Shangguan Luyun said in a deep voice. Suddenly, an even more intense aura erupted from the two of them. The rich spiritual energy was like two balls of dancing flames that constantly flickered. Ding ding ding. Duan Fei's sword was like a rainbow as countless sword beams scattered out. They were like millions of white feathers that covered the entire space. However, Shangguan Liuyun's rich purple spiritual energy condensed on the spear as if it had formed an invisible vortex that sucked in all the white feathers. Revolving spear style. Shangguan Luyun shouted in a low voice. On the purple spear tip, the rich spiritual energy crazily rotated. Together with the sharp spear tip, it constantly compressed the surrounding air. The surrounding air seemed to have been compressed until it was deformed. Duan Fei suddenly felt as if his body had sunk into mud. His complacent speed also decreased. What is this? He was alarmed and had no choice but to use all his strength to break through. In the spectator stands, when the disciples saw Shangguan Liuyun's spear blast away all the sword beams, they immediately exclaimed, "This spear art." Lin Xian frowned. Chapter 56. Duan Fei's phantom-like movement technique lost its effect and he was immediately at a disadvantage. The two of them engaged in close combat. Purple beams soared into the sky as sword beams crisscrossed. However, Duan Fei had lost his speed. He was like a bird in the sky that had lost its wings. It was difficult for him to use his full strength. Shocking wind sword. Duan Fei stabbed out with his sword. His muddy body became more agile. On the tip of the sword, the figure of a white condor appeared. Sword force. It's sword force again. As expected of one of the outer sect's four heroes. Other than his insane speed, he has also comprehended sword force. Shangguan Liuyun's eyes shone. The spear in his hand transformed into a flood dragon as it pounced at the white condor. Immediately, the entire stage emitted an intense collision sound. Boom. After a shocking tremor, the two of them separated once again. A cross-shaped crack appeared where they were originally standing. It almost split the entire stage into four. Duan Fei retreated more than 10 steps before stabilizing his body. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and looked at Shangguan Luyun in horror. He saw Shangguan Luyun standing with his spear. The divine flames on his body pulsed and his aura did not have any signs of disorder. I admit defeat. Duan Fei put away his sword. His identity had been restrained. It was futile to continue fighting. He might as well conserve his strength to prepare for the third stage. Shangguan Luyun put away his purple spear and cupped his fists at Duan Fei before walking down the stage. Shangguan Luyun wins. The referee's voice sounded. Shangguan Luyun is too powerful. Even Duan Fei's insane speed was restrained. Furthermore, he did not seem to use his full strength. I'm afraid the first place will be Shangguan Luyun. Everyone was discussing Shangguan Luyun. As for Lin Xian, he closed his eyes. He was comprehending the movement technique that Duan Fei had just used and Shangguan Liuyun's unique whirlpool spear technique. According to Wine Lord, Shangguan Liuyun's whirlpool spear technique was actually an application of spirit energy. Every strand of spirit energy was precisely controlled and circulated at high speeds, forming something like a whirlpool. This technique was similar to Lin Xian's thunderclap sword technique. They were both precise control of the energy, allowing it to display its greatest effect. Second match of the semifinals, Lin Xian vs. Jianghu. After the time it took for an incense stick to burn, the referee's voice sounded out once more. The victor of this battle would be decided and it would be the final battle with Shangguan Luyun. It's finally my turn. Lin Xian, just wait for your death. With a leap, Jiang Yulong gracefully landed on the arena. He crossed his arms and looked very relaxed. Judging from Jiang Yulong's expression, he doesn't seem to care about Lin Xian at all. Of course. He has the confidence to challenge Shangguan Luyun. How can he lose here? Amidst the crowd, the disciples of the Divine Might group let out thunderous cheers, as though Jiang Yulong had already become the champion. Where's Lin Xian? Why haven't they gone up yet? Someone asked doubtfully. Could it be that he's afraid? Under normal circumstances, both sides should already be standing on the stage, but Lin Xian was nowhere to be seen. The result is the same whether they go up or not. But this is the first time I've seen such a cowardly piece of trash. The disciples of the Divine Might group sneered. Damn, look at Lin Xian. What's he doing? Is he resting with his eyes closed? Is he asleep? Someone noticed that Lin Xian was sitting in the leisure area with his eyes closed, deep in thought. He did not seem to want to go up the stage at all. Damn, what's with the act? If you don't dare to go up, just say it. Lin Xian, Yin Qingyi whispered from the side. Hey you bastard, don't tell me you're really scared? Tang Yu muttered softly. Lin Xian opened his eyes and rubbed his head helplessly. He was still recalling the battle just now. He had basically figured it out and all he needed to do was to put it into practice. If anyone knew what Lin Xian was thinking, their jaws would probably drop. How heaven-defying must one's talent be to be able to understand the essence of someone else's martial arts just by looking at it once? He stood up and slowly walked onto the arena, facing Jiang Yulong. You still dare to come up? Jiang Yulong said disdainfully. I think it's better for you to stay down there. At least a coward can still live. You talk too much nonsense, Lin Xian said calmly. Keep pretending. Do you really think that you can challenge me just because you defeated Hua Yangping? Let me tell you, you're too weak. I don't know who gave you that confidence, but from now on, your confidence will be useless in front of me. Lin Xian pulled out his dark red greatsword with a flip of his hand. Do you want me to give you 3 moves? Jiang Yulong was very arrogant. Otherwise you'll lose in 1 move. How boring would that be? Give me 3 moves? Lin Xian's lips curled into a smile. Thank you very much. After saying that, his body disappeared from the spot. When he reappeared, he was already in front of Jiang Yulong. The distance of 10 feet was covered in the blink of an eye. That speed was too terrifying. Before the crowd could react, Lin Xian's red flame sword slashed down like red lightning. It was extremely fast. The red sword was like a huge mountain. It was incomparably heavy and pressed down on Jiang Yulong. Jiang Yulong could not dodge that speed and could only block it with his sword. Clang. The 2 swords clashed and a metallic sound rang out. Didn't you say you'd give me 3 moves? Lin Xian's lips curled into a cold smile. The benefits are cancelled. Now I want you dead. Jiang Yulong swung his sword away from Lin Xian's sword. His face was extremely ferocious. He had almost suffered a loss just now. I'll let you know what a real genius is. Jiang Yulong's long sword was suddenly covered with a layer of red flames. It was as dazzling as the sun. After the flame-like spiritual energy appeared, the temperature in the air suddenly rose. Black spots appeared on the ground. That was the result of being roasted by the high temperature. In front of my fire attribute spiritual energy, you're no different from an ant. Jiang Yulong swung his long sword. Layers of heat waves spread out, almost melting the air. Flame Dragon Sword. Jiang Yulong stabbed out. The fiery red spiritual energy turned into a fire dragon, roaring as it rushed forward. In the blink of an eye, the fire dragon was already in front of Lin Xian. It was about to swallow him. Lin Xian activated the secret art of long life. The spiritual energy in his body quickly circulated. Chapter 57. Lin Xian's actions surprised everyone. In their opinion, he was courting death. Die for me. Jiang Yulong roared. The moment the fire dragon touched Lin Xian, the sword in Lin Xian's hand turned into a golden lightning and went against the flow. A shocking scene appeared. The ferocious fire dragon was split into 2 halves from the forehead. With a wail, the fire dragon turned back into flames and scattered on the ground. The disciples in the stands were stunned. What did Lin Xian do? He actually split the fire dragon condensed from the fire attribute spiritual power? God, what did I just see? Strike me to death. Not only did the ordinary disciples not believe it, but even the elite disciples were also stunned. For the first time, Shen Qian'er's beautiful face showed a surprised expression. Even Shangguan Luyun was no longer calm. His purple eyes stared at Lin Xian without blinking. How did you do it? This is impossible. The most shocked person was of course Jiang Yulong. No one knew the power of this move better than him. He originally wanted to rely on this move to defeat Lin Xian, but he did not expect it to be broken so easily. Is my fire attribute spiritual power not perfect? Jiang Yulong was suspicious. No one thought about the attribute spiritual power because it was too difficult to find. Unless there was a high-level attribute cultivation method or martial arts, it was almost impossible to find in the outer sect. In addition, Lin Xian did not fully mobilize the spiritual power in his body. Although the golden spiritual power looked special, it did not show the characteristics of the thunder attribute. Therefore, no one thought that Lin Xian had mastered the attribute spiritual power. Jiang Yulong's face was frighteningly dark. He could not accept this fact. Only by ruthlessly defeating Lin Xian could he relieve the hatred in his heart. Raise the fire and burn the sky. Jiang Yulong urged the spiritual power in his body to the extreme. His body was surrounded by blazing flames as he rushed toward Lin Xian. The flaming sword was quickly waved, forming a sea of fire. Ding 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 ding. Lin Xian also met Jiang Yulong's attack with his giant sword. His dark red sword was covered with a golden radiance. Every strike of his sword pierced through the sea of fire and collided with the tip of Jiang Yulong's sword. In the blink of an eye, the two of them had swung their swords dozens of times. Every sword strike was like a needle against an awn, colliding and canceling each other out, causing the disciples below to gasp in amazement. Such fast swordsmanship, such precise control. Their swordsmanship had long surpassed the realm of perfection. Every strike seemed to carry an indescribable power. However, they controlled it very well and did not overflow the arena. Blazing diffraction sword. Jiang Yulong's swordsmanship suddenly changed. Several sword shadows flew out from his body and pierced toward Lin Xian from different directions. The angles were so tricky that it was impossible to guard against them. Thunderous sword technique. Lin Xian swung his sword continuously, each strike as fast as lightning, accurately shattering all the sword lights. The sword lights fell to the ground and formed small fire snakes about an inch long. They quickly slithered around and blocked off all of Lin Xian's escape routes. Startling snake explosion. Dozens of small fire snakes suddenly exploded. The terrifying energy instantly blasted a deep pit in the ground. Lin Xian was completely submerged in the violent explosion. Shadow step. A black figure escaped from the explosion in an instant. The golden spiritual energy shield on his body was deformed in many places. There was a fist-sized hole on his back. However, it was fortunate that he had escaped. Shadow pursuit. Lin Xian did not stop. Instead, he rushed toward Jiang Yulong with his sword. This young man gave him a very dangerous feeling. He had to take the initiative to meet the attack and end the battle quickly. Otherwise, the consequences might be unexpected. His thunderous sword technique had already reached the second realm of perfection. He could perform it as he wished. He stuck close to Jiang Yulong. The long sword in his hand pierced, swept, and lifted. All the basic sword moves in his hands turned into deadly moves in his hands. The more Jiang Yulong fought, the more shocked he became. He was almost being suppressed by Lin Xian. Every strike of the red sword was as heavy as a mountain, but it was also as fast as lightning. He had no choice but to use all his strength to deal with it. Moreover, every time his sword was about to stab Lin Xian, it would always be a little short. All the moves were exquisitely dodged by Lin Xian. He knew that this footwork had been trained to an extremely profound level. In addition to perfect control, he could perform it as he wished. Even Duan Fei, who was below the stage, was shocked when he saw Lin Xian's footwork. Although Lin Xian was still inferior to him in terms of speed, Lin Xian was almost on par with him in terms of exquisite positioning and precise control of distance. Although it is a mid-grade yellow-ranked martial art footwork, the effect is better than a high-grade yellow-ranked martial art. It seems that we have underestimated him, Shengguan Luyun said in a deep voice from the side. Duan Fei glanced at Shengguan Luyun and said indifferently, "I'm afraid there will be more surprises. I saw him once 3 months ago. At that time he used a sword technique. If he uses it now, I'm afraid Jiang Yulong will immediately lose the match." What sword technique is so powerful? Shun Qian asked curiously. Even Shengguan Luyun had a curious expression. "I don't know. Maybe he doesn't know how to use it. I believe that everything will come to an end soon." Duan Fei's voice was a little low. He recalled the heavenly meteor. At that time, Lin Xian was still a little sword slave participating in the outer sect assessment. Who would have thought that 3 months later, he would be able to compete with geniuses like the 4 heroes of the outer sect? Heavenly meteor. I wonder if I can dodge it? Duan Fei was very curious. Although his movement technique was extremely fast, he wasn't 100% confident. In the arena, Jiang Yulong was irritated by Lin Xian's close-range attacks. He let out an angry roar, and the aura on his body suddenly more than doubled. Fiery fury. With an angry roar, the fiery red spirit power on Jiang Yulong's body suddenly spread out. It was like a wave of fire that burned everything around him. The golden spirit power on Lin Xian's body turned into a golden war saber that split the sea of fire in half. In the blink of an eye, hundreds of moves had passed. The two of them fiercely clashed and separated again, facing each other from a distance. Lin Xian slowly let out a breath. The battle just now could be said to be evenly matched. He didn't use his full strength and presumably his opponent was the same. Sure enough, after a few breaths, Jiang Yulong, who was dozens of feet away, seemed to have made a decision. That cold gaze made Lin Xian's heart tremble. I didn't expect you to grow to this extent. Jiang Yulong's heart was filled with hatred. If he had known earlier, he would have killed Lin Xian outside the Devil Abyss. However, there was no medicine for regret in this world. He could only helplessly accept this fact. But if you think that you can defeat me like this, then you're too naive. Jiang Yulong's voice suddenly became very urgent. This was originally prepared for Shangguan Luyun. I didn't expect to use it on you. Chapter 58. You should be proud to die under this move. Jiang Yulong said coldly. He placed the long sword horizontally in front of his chest and bent his left hand in the air. His originally normal palm suddenly turned fiery red. He gently stroked the body of the sword. Suddenly, the entire long sword seemed to come alive and became extremely red. This set of movements was very slow. After he finished, his face was abnormally pale. The long sword was as red as blood and emitted a throbbing that made people's hearts tremble. The terrifying temperature was twice as high as before and the surrounding space was blurred. Drip. Jiang Yulong gently waved the long sword. The red flame was like a liquid. A few drops fell on the ground and immediately burned the ground and quickly spread in all directions. A drop of red liquid the size of a water droplet actually burned all the bluestone slabs within a radius of a few feet. Lin Xian's pupils shrank. He felt a fatal danger from the long sword. Clenching the dark red sword in his hand, Lin Xian was ready to fight with all his strength. Don't waste your energy. Even a 7th level Meridian Spiritual Knight would not be able to block this move. Jiang Yulong's voice was a little tired, but there was a trace of excitement in it. Although I paid a big price, it was worth it to get rid of you. Mysterious fire sword. A deep voice sounded. The bright red long sword carried a dazzling red light and formed a sword energy that was 3 feet long. Just the aftermath of the sword energy caused the ground to be shaved off a foot. The sword energy was as dazzling as the sun. It was so bright that the audience could not open their eyes and could not look directly at it. Lin Xian felt the threat of this sword. He crazily urged his spiritual power. The golden spiritual power attached to the sword edge and small electric arcs constantly flowed. Lin Xian's body was also covered with golden thunder. He was like the thunder god. The thunder sword in his hand pierced out like lightning. Fury of the thunder god. On the stage, a golden light flashed and then there was an earth-shattering explosion. Half of the stage was covered by an energy barrier and it quickly spread out. Countless stones flew up and the air was stirred up rapidly. It formed a gust of wind and blew the stones in all directions. Many stones flew towards the stands. The disciples in the front row retreated one after another. The broken stones hit the stone steps, leaving holes in them. The disciples in the front row had lingering fears and did not dare to move forward. Fuck, just the power of the shockwaves is so strong. Are they still human? I'm afraid that even the inner sect disciples are nothing more than this, right? Why do I feel that they have already surpassed most of the inner court disciples? What a freak. These disciples discussed animatedly, their tone full of envy. I wonder what's the situation inside? But this Lin Xian is really surprising. Yeah, no matter what the result is, Lin Xian is the true dark horse of this selection competition. Do you think Lin Xian has a chance of turning the tables? I'm really looking forward to it. Above the arena, a cloud of dust curled up, making it impossible for the crowd to see what was happening. They could only guess below. Duan Fei stared at the arena and frowned slightly. He turned to look at Shangguan Luyun and asked, "What do you think?" Lin Xian's final shroud of golden lightning seemed to be lightning attribute spiritual energy, so the outcome is hard to predict. Shangguan Luyun said in a deep voice. Lightning attribute? Duan Fei muttered. It's really a rare spiritual energy attribute, but why didn't he use that heavenly meteor? Not only were the disciples guessing, even the elders on the golden stands were so shocked that they pulled their beards. Their eyes were wide open. It's actually lightning attribute. Who is this youth? Such a monster. Elderly exclaimed. It was already rare for outer sect disciples to cultivate an attribute, but now the most violent lightning attribute had appeared. How could he not be surprised? Hee, this little fellow is really surprising. Elder Fong chuckled as he stroked his beard. Old Fong, you know him? A group of old men looked at Elder Fong. On the stage, the dust finally dispersed and two figures appeared. Look, the results are coming out. Everyone stared with their eyes wide open. The referee in charge of the competition waved his sleeves and formed a gust of wind, blowing away the remaining dust. Finally, the two figures appeared clearly in front of the crowd. The two youths, one on the left and one on the right, stood upright. The doctor on the left was dressed in white, his eyes full of arrogance. It was Jianghu. On the right, Lin Xian was dressed in black, his delicate face expressionless. Ah! Jianghu suddenly looked up to the sky and laughed. Oh no, did Jianghu win? Seeing this, Tang Yu Yin Qingyi and the rest's faces changed. I didn't expect you to be able to withstand this move. Jiang Yulong's body suddenly leaned back, blood spurting out of his mouth, and he fell straight down. Senior brother Jiang. The disciples of the Divine Might group ran up to the arena and hugged Jiang Yulong nervously. Their faces were full of panic. They did not believe that the outer sect pillar of the Divine Might group would lose, especially to a youth who had just made a name for himself. Carry him down. His life is not in danger, just some injuries. The referee's words put the Divine Might group's disciples at ease. They glared fiercely at Lin Xian, then quickly carried Jiang Yulong down the arena. Little guy, you're not bad. The square-faced, middle-aged referee suddenly said to Lin Xian, you have the strength and know your limits. The future of the Black Heaven sect depends on you disciples. Lin Xian respectfully bowed to the square-faced referee, then slowly walked down the arena. When he stabbed Jiang Yulong just now, a voice rang in his ears, telling Lin Xian that he only needed to win and not kill. That was why he withdrew 30% of his strength at the last moment. Otherwise, Jiang Yulong would have been dead. Lin Xian and Jiang Yulong were both young geniuses. The sect did not want to lose such disciples, so the square-faced referee warned them. When Lin Xian walked down from the stage, the entire martial arts arena rang out with his name. The ordinary disciples had already treated him as their idol and were cheering non-stop. Their voices shook the heavens. And Lin Xian's experience was spread among the disciples. 3 months ago, he participated in the outer sect assessment as a sword slave and successfully entered the outer sect of the Black Heaven sect. And 3 months later, he grew from a little sword slave to a genius disciple who could defeat the 4 heroes of the outer sect. Chapter 59. As Lin Xian stood up, the atmosphere in the martial arts practice field became lively again. Shengguan Luyun versus Lin Xian. One was the recognized #1 outer sect disciple, the other was a young genius who suddenly emerged as a new force. Who would be the final champion between the two? The two of them were more than 10 feet apart as they faced each other. Shengguan Luyun flicked his ring and a purple spear appeared in his hand. Suddenly his aura became completely different. From the original calm and reserved, it became unstoppable. The pulsating purple spirit energy seemed to pierce the heavens. Lin Xian held the dark red greatsword. He did not release any spirit energy and just stood there calmly. However, no one doubted his strength until now. He was like a treasure sword. It was fine if he did not leave the sheath, but once he did, the wind and clouds would change. Everyone was amazed. Lin Xian, you are worthy of me making a move. Shengguan Luyun said, between you and me, how about we decide the victor in 3 moves? 3 moves to decide the victor? Hearing this, the people below were completely ignited. They did not need to think to know that these 3 moves were definitely killing moves. It seemed like Shengguan Luyun planned to end the battle quickly. 3 moves? That's exactly what I want. Lin Xian did not want to drag it out. As soon as his words fell, Shengguan Luyun suddenly shouted. The purple aura on his body suddenly exploded, revealing a shocking battle intent. It was like a purple divine spear that wanted to tear the heavens apart. Shengguan Luyun's aura continued to rise. The purple aura tumbled like a demon king was born. What a terrifying aura. Duan Fei stared at Shengguan Luyun on the stage. His expression was uncertain. Whoosh. Feeling this shocking aura, Lin Xian no longer suppressed the power in his body. Pale golden spirit energy rushed out and instantly covered his entire body. Around him, the air suddenly became violent. Countless golden lightning arcs were faintly discernible as they constantly wandered around his body. Lightning, it's actually lightning. Lin Xian actually had elemental spirit energy. At this moment, all the disciples stood up in shock. Their eyes were filled with shock. On the stage, Lin Xian was like a thunder god descending to earth. His black hair danced in the wind, and his entire body was enveloped in golden arcs of electricity. Even his eyes were imprinted with a golden hue. No wonder he could defeat Jianghu. It turns out that he also has elemental spiritual energy. Moreover, it's the most violent lightning energy. These disciples didn't know what had happened at the last moment of the last match, but when they saw Lin Xian's current situation, they all came to a realization. On the arena, the two of them were fighting. Purple and gold clashed against each other, constantly rubbing against each other in the air, producing crackling sounds. Boom. The two energies collided, forming circles of ripples that spread out in all directions. With the two of them as the center, the ground around them turned into powder. Even some of the stone steps in front of them were shattered. Soul-stirring 3 spears. First spear vortex. Shangguan Luyun shouted. Endless purple spirit energy poured into the spear, and the air trembled. The moment the spear was unleashed, the winds and clouds moved. It was as if a purple dragon had emerged from the sea. Facing this peerless spear, Lin Xian's expression turned solemn. This was the first time he felt a sense of danger. His body faintly trembled. It wasn't because of fear but excitement. Yes, it was excitement. Lin Xian's eyes were as bright as the stars. A strong fighting spirit burst out from his body. He was like a golden war king, holding a dark red greatsword. With the power of wind and thunder, he angrily faced the attack. Bang! The golden light flashed and fiercely collided with the purple spear, producing a thunder-like vibration. Those disciples with weaker cultivation felt as if their ears had gone deaf. They couldn't hear anything. On the purple spear, a purple vortex with endless suction force seemed to want to devour Lin Xian. This was the move that defeated Duan Fei. Thunder movement. Lin Xian shouted in a low voice. The dark red greatsword suddenly overflowed with a scarlet light, resonating with the golden electric current on the sword body. Layers of dark energy surged toward Shangguan Luyun like waves, just in time to resist the suction force. Shangguan Luyun was shocked. He didn't expect that Lin Xian's seemingly ordinary sword would contain so many dark energies. It was like the divine thunder from the 9 heavens, constantly accumulating power. For the first time, his vortex spear art had lost its effect. Furthermore, the golden electric arc constantly seeped into his spirit energy, releasing the power of thunder and lightning, causing his body to feel a sense of numbness. Humph! Shangguan Liuyun's spear trembled and forcefully interrupted the attack. Both of them kept retreating and looked at each other warily. With one move, the two of them seemed to be evenly matched. The disciples in the stands were excited. They would not forget that the spear just now defeated the second-place outer sect disciple, Duan Fei. However, Lin Xian calmly received it. These two people have probably far surpassed the other outer sect disciples. Many elite disciples felt a sense of loss. Everyone could only roughly see and did not know what happened. However, Shangguan Luyun knew in his heart that he lost in the first move. If he didn't shake off Lin Xian's long sword in time, the golden electric arc would have penetrated his spirit energy defense. What is that golden arc of lightning? How can he control such terrifying lightning? Shangguan Luyun couldn't understand. This kind of lightning, even in the inner sect, no disciple could control it. However, it actually appeared in Lin Xian's hands. However, it was impossible for him to admit defeat just like that. Shangguan Luyun was very confident in his spear art, especially the last 2 moves. He could even win against a rank 7 meridian condensing spiritual knight. The second move, Purple Ray. The 8-foot-long spear had a purple light flowing on it. It was mysterious. This spear didn't care about the strange power, but the abnormal speed. Fast, it was extremely fast. That kind of speed made people unable to react. Even Duan Fei, who was always proud of his speed, after seeing this spear, his pupils shrunk and his back was covered in cold sweat. He thought about it again and again and realized that he still couldn't dodge this spear. Lin Xian only felt the cold purple ray flash. Soon after, the long spear was like a dragon and instantly arrived in front of him. Speed. The corner of Lin Xian's mouth slightly raised. This Shangguan Liuyun's moves were really similar to his. The first move was a strange use of power, and the second move was abnormal speed. Wrath of the Thunder God. Lin Xian's long sword turned into a red and gold light and collided with the cold purple ray. Ah! He blocked it? Shangguan Liuyun's expression changed again. If it was a comparison of power, he admitted that he lost by 1 level. However, in terms of speed, he had absolute confidence. Even Duan Fei wouldn't be able to dodge this spear, but Lin Xian actually blocked it. The tip of the purple long spear and the tip of the dark red greatsword collided. The two different powers devoured each other and then dissipated. Chapter 60. Shangguan Liuyun's expression was extremely solemn as he did not win after 2 moves. There's still one more move. Lin Xian, if you can take this move, you will be this time's champion. Shangguan Liuyun's voice was cold. What else do you have? Come on out. Lin Xian changed his usual gentleness. His words were filled with a domineering aura. The third move, Bright Sun. The purple spear was raised high by Shangguan Liuyun. On the tip of the spear, a purple vortex spun rapidly. A large amount of purple spirit energy surged towards the tip of the spear. Under the effect of the vortex, it formed a fist-sized energy ball that was constantly expanding. Lin Xian's pupils constricted. The energy ball on the purple spear tip made him feel flustered. The power of the third move was probably greater than the first 2 moves combined. Other than the heavenly meteor, Lin Xian had used all his other moves. Furthermore, he did not want to use the heavenly meteor to resist. After all, that was his life-saving move. I can only try the 3rd level of the thunderous sword technique. Lin Xian did not have much confidence in his heart. He did not have time to think carefully. Shangguan Liuyun had already condensed the purple energy ball. He used the purple light and rushed over. With that speed, Lin Xian's shadow step had no way of dodging. Frantically circulating the longevity secret, Lin Xian raised the spirit energy in his body to the limit. The red flame greatsword in his hand was suffused with a golden glow of thunder as it swept out. Boom! The dark red greatsword that was originally able to withstand Shangguan Liuyun's second move was retreating in front of the purple energy ball. Lin Xian's small face was illuminated purple, looking somewhat powerless. Break for me. Shangguan Liuyun exerted his strength once again. The purple energy ball resisted the dark red greatsword and slowly moved towards Lin Xian. This was almost half of the spiritual power in Shangguan Liuyun's body. All of it was compressed into this fist-sized energy ball. After this move, his combat ability would be greatly reduced. This was also the reason why he said that victory would be decided in 3 moves. Facing this unbelievably powerful energy ball, Lin Xian's entire body tensed up. It was as if an invisible mountain was pressing down on him, making it hard for him to breathe. It's over. Lin Xian is going to lose. Everyone saw the situation on the stage. Lin Xian's struggling figure was reflected in everyone's eyes. As expected, Shangguan Liuyun is still better. Someone let out a sigh. Are we going to lose? No. How can I lose here? If I can't even beat these people, how can I face my family? How can I face those even more abnormal clansmen? Lin Xian's eyes were filled with unwillingness. He wanted power, more power. Ah! His eyes were filled with madness. Under the thunderclap sword technique, the strength of his muscles was constantly squeezing out the potential in his body. Bang! Under this pressure, the spiritual energy in his body began to circulate crazily and finally broke through the 6th spiritual pulse. A powerful aura began to spread out from his body. On the golden grandstand, Elder Fang's expression froze. His eyes sparkled as he stared at Lin Xian. Originally, he also thought that Lin Xian was going to lose. To be honest, Lin Xian's current results were already beyond his expectations. He did not expect the situation to change again. Not only Elder Fang, but even the ordinary disciples noticed the change in Lin Xian. Their originally calm hearts were once again in suspense. In fact, the most surprised person was Shangguan Liuyun. He had already clearly felt Lin Xian's weakness. As long as he persevered, victory would be his. But he did not expect that at this critical moment, Lin Xian would actually break through. Yes, Lin Xian had broken through. He was originally at the peak of the 5th level of the meridian condensing stage and was just a step away from breaking through. Now, in this environment, he had successfully broken through to the 6th level of the meridian condensing stage. In 3 months, he had broken through from the 3rd level of the meridian condensing stage to the 6th level. This speed had never happened before in the Black Heaven sect. Lin Xian's current strength could be said to have more than doubled compared to before. With the art of longevity, he was now able to compete with Shangguan Luyun. A tyrannical aura emanated from his body. The purple energy ball that was about to fly to his body was now controlled by Lin Xian. It even had the power to resist. However, just as everyone thought that the two of them were about to enter a protracted battle, the fist-sized energy ball constantly deformed as if it was about to explode at any time. Sure enough, after a few breaths, an earth-shattering explosion sounded. The entire arena was covered by a purple light. This? In the golden grandstand, Elder Li and the others stood up one after another. They paid close attention to the situation in the arena. Many ordinary disciples were also nervous and restless. Whoosh! A figure flew out from the arena and quickly landed on the open ground. It was the square-faced elder. He was also carrying two people in his hands. They were Shangguan Luyun and Lin Xian. The purple energy ball had clearly broken away from Shangguan Luyun's control, causing the situation to go out of control. At the critical moment, the referee intervened and saved the two of them. The sect would not let such a genius disciple fall. Shangguan Luyun was covered in blood and his face was pale. He had suffered serious injuries. Lin Xian, who was beside him, only had a pale face. If one looked carefully, they would notice that his skin was covered with a layer of black patterns. From afar it looked like a black lotus. The square-faced referee thought that Lin Xian had a secret treasure on him, so he did not ask anything. However, from his eyes, one could see that there was a hint of shock. Chi-chi. The black lotus patterns gradually faded and finally disappeared completely. Ever since Lin Xian could cultivate, this lotus had been very strange. As long as Lin Xian's life was in danger, it would come out to protect him. On the other hand, the mysterious small sword did not move at all. Little Xian, are you all right? In the Black Heaven sect, Wine Lord did not dare to casually make a move. Otherwise he would expose himself. When that happened, even Lin Xian would not be able to escape. I'm just a little injured. It's nothing serious. Lin Xian said weakly. After receiving Lin Xian's reply, Wine Lord nodded and did not say anything else. The scene was a little chaotic for a moment. Many disciples were discussing the scene just now. Some were excited, some were worried. However, most of them wanted to know how the situation would end. Was it a draw? You won. Shangguan Luyun struggled to support himself and said softly. He and Lin Xian were both affected. He was injured, but Lin Xian did not bleed at all. This difference made him feel uncomfortable. When the square-faced referee heard Shangguan Luyun's words, he nodded. After giving the two of them a pill, he said in a deep voice, "The winner Lin Xian. The winner Lin Xian." This voice echoed in the martial arts practice field and did not dissipate for a long time. Perhaps no one would have guessed that the champion would be Lin Xian. This delicate youth had broken the pattern of the outer sect for many years and successfully obtained the title of number 1 in the outer sect. Chapter 61. Early in the morning the sun shone brightly. 3 days had passed since the second stage of the competition. In these 3 days, Lin Xian had already recovered from his injuries and stabilized his cultivation at the 6th level of the meridian condensing stage. In these 3 days many people had come to see him, but he had rejected them all with the excuse of recuperating. He knew that these disciples wanted nothing more than to form a relationship with him and gain benefits. During this time, the black lotus in his body appeared again, shocking him and Wine Lord. Lin Xian had also asked Wine Lord about the origin of the black lotus. This time, Wine Lord did not beat around the bush and directly said that he did not know. Lin Xian asked again and again. Wine Lord muttered a few words, and he vaguely heard something about not being in the same reincarnation cycle. However, Wine Lord decided to make a move. He took out the black lotus and let Lin Xian study it carefully. In my current state I can only make a move once. You have to seize the opportunity, Wine Lord said. Okay. Lin Xian nodded solemnly. He closed his eyes and looked inside his body, carefully scanning every inch. Not long after, the mysterious small sword in his body suddenly trembled, and a small sword wave spread out like a wave. Immediately after, a black object appeared at Lin Xian's 7th spirit meridian. It gradually turned into a black lotus. It was incomparably beautiful. Lin Xian looked over. The black lotus suddenly swished and wrapped around the mysterious small sword. It kept twisting, wanting to cover the entire sword. In the next moment, in the independent space inside the mysterious small sword, a black lotus suddenly appeared on the desolate ground. It kept growing as if it wanted to pierce through this small world. Wine Lord's expression was serious. He condensed a wisp of sword energy and attacked the Black Lotus, but it had no effect. He sighed helplessly. There was nothing he could do. He was too weak now. If not for the mysterious small sword, he would have died long ago. Moreover, the Black Lotus was very mysterious. It had existed in an era before him, so it was normal that he could not do anything about it. The Black Lotus grew larger and larger, about to occupy the entire space. At this moment, the withered tree suddenly emitted a weak light that swept towards the Black Lotus. The lotus flower seemed to have encountered something frightening. It swayed its leaves and branches, continuously shrinking, and quickly left the mysterious little sword. Lin Xian sensed that the Black Lotus had transformed back into a black object. It was being chased by a beam of divine light. It kept running until it was finally enveloped by the beam of divine light. Wine Lord's hands kept changing seals. He controlled the godly light and slowly melted the black object inside. Then he absorbed the golden lightning from Lin Xian's body and fused it with the godly light. Finally, the divine light returned to the small sword. Wine Lord's voice came from inside. I have planted a sword will seed in your body. It will grow as you grow. As long as you don't die, you will become a powerful being in the world. Sword intent, seed. Lin Xian murmured. He knew that above sword force there was something called sword will. However, it was very vague. It required great comprehension and luck. Ordinary people could not grasp it. It seemed to only exist in legends. But now, Wine Lord was telling him that he had a sword will seed in his body. It was the first time he had heard that sword will could be planted as a seed. He was once again very curious about the mysterious little sword and Wine Lord in his body. With the sword will seed, my strength will increase greatly. Lin Xian was excited. He closed his eyes and tried to communicate with the mysterious little sword in his body. This time, the mysterious little sword finally reacted. Lin Xian could feel that there was a weak golden light inside the mysterious little sword. Although it was weak, it had a terrifying aura. Is this my seed of sword intent? Lin Xian looked at it carefully and realized that the golden spot of light also had a lightning attribute. This sword will seed was formed by the lightning in your body. You can call it the lightning sword will. Wine Lord's voice was weak. I can only help you with this. You will have to find the sword will seed yourself in the future. Can I plant it again? Lin Xian was puzzled. Yes, you will know in the future. Wine Lord smiled mysteriously. Okay, I'm going to sleep for a while. Be careful. Wine Lord's voice was very weak. He had used too much energy just now. Remember to help me find medicine that can restore my soul. Otherwise I will never wake up. Wine Lord reminded him. Don't worry, uncle. I will help you find it. Lin Xian said seriously. After Wine Lord fell into a deep sleep, Lin Xian began to study the sword will seed. He found that the moment the golden sword will seed was planted, he suddenly understood a lot more about lightning. He did not need to deliberately control the lightning in his body. With just a thought, he could achieve the situation he wanted. I wonder how my thunderous sword technique is doing? Lin Xian could not wait to try it out. To his surprise, he could easily perform the third level of the thunderous sword technique. The sword will seed is so magical. Lin Xian felt that the thunderous sword technique was not difficult for him at all. He could even easily perform the third level of the sword technique, lightning slash. At this point he had completely mastered the thunderous sword technique. This result made Lin Xian very happy. He decided to cultivate the sword will seed with all his strength. Immediately, he sat cross-legged and urged the spiritual power in his body to nourish the seed. The golden sword will seed was like a living body, constantly absorbing the lightning attribute in the spiritual power. At the same time, it also transmitted a very magical concept. Above the 9 heavens, a golden sea of lightning kept rolling. Every bolt of lightning was thicker than a person and pierced through the void. It was extremely violent. Lin Xian felt as if he was in this sea of thunder, feeling the fury of thunder. However, this concept could not last. It could only last for a few breaths. However, Lin Xian believed that as the sword will seed grew, he would feel that concept again. If he were to fight with Shangguan Luyun now, he was confident that he could defeat him in 3 moves. This was the advantage that the sword will seed gave him. Chapter 62. In the following days, Lin Xian studied the sword intent seed while waiting for the 3rd test. A few days later, someone from the inner sect informed Lin Xian to receive the reward for the 2nd test. The person who came was Elder Fang's doorman. He led Lin Xian to Elder Fang's small courtyard and then went to inform Elder Fang. In the quiet courtyard, other than Lin Xian there were two other people. They were Shengguan Luyun and Duan Fei. They were second and third place, so they naturally had rewards. Lin Xian greeted the two of them and then stood to the side, waiting for Elder Fang. A moment later, Elder Fang, who was dressed in a Taoist robe, walked out with a smile. I will be responsible for the rewards for the three of you. According to the rules, the first place will be rewarded with a pure spirit pill, a mid-profound rank martial art, and a human rank artifact. The second place will be rewarded with a low-profound rank martial art and a small yellow pill. The third place will be rewarded with a profound rank martial art. Elder Fang said unhurriedly, Lin Xian, Shengguan Luyun, the two of you are here to receive your pills. Lin Xian and Shengguan Luyun walked forward and took the two white porcelain bottles. Then they respectfully retreated. Lin Xian opened the bottle and found a longan-sized pill inside. There was a faint green color flowing on top of it. The medicinal fragrance made people feel refreshed. This pill can actually raise one's cultivation by a small realm. It's really abnormal. Lin Xian carefully put it away and waited for what would happen next. Elder Fang saw that Lin Xian could remain calm under the temptation of a third-grade pill. A trace of surprise flashed in his eyes. He took out another item and threw it to Lin Xian. This is the human rank artifact rewarded by the sect, a storage ring. Lin Xian received the ring and put it on happily. With this, he would have a lot of things to carry. He immediately used his divine sense to touch the storage ring and put the pure spirit pill inside. Alright, let's go to the martial skills pavilion. Elder Fang waved his hand and covered the three of them. Then he flew away like a breeze. The three of them only felt a hazy fog wrap around their bodies. Then their bodies left the ground and flew quickly. They couldn't see what was happening outside, but based on their senses they were flying upwards. Not long after, Lin Xian and the other two stood on the ground again. The three of them circulated their spiritual energy and immediately woke up. Follow me closely. Don't get lost, Elder Fang instructed. Then he walked in a certain direction. The three of them hurriedly followed behind, afraid that they would lose him. However, the three of them looked around curiously, their faces filled with curiosity. The path made of bluestone slabs was winding, leading into the distance. On both sides of the path, there were many flowers and trees. In the distance there were a few grand palaces. They were covered by clouds and mist, making them seem unreal. During this time they also encountered some disciples. These people all looked hurried and their auras were abnormally powerful. Lin Xian and the other two could not compare to them. Is this the inner sect? Lin Xian whispered. Yes, the inner sect and outer sect are on two different mountains. Usually they don't move around. Ordinary outer sect disciples don't know the inner sect situation, and inner sect disciples don't return to the outer sect, Duan Fei said. Shengguan Luyun took a deep breath and exhaled after a while. The spiritual energy here is much richer than the outer sect. Cultivating here will probably be twice as fast as cultivating in the outer sect. The three of them discussed in whispers. They were filled with yearning for the inner sect. Lin Xian thought that he would be able to cultivate here soon and immediately felt excited. If there were no accidents, he would soon become an inner sect disciple. His next goal would be to become a core disciple. Only then would he be qualified to return to his family. The deeper they went, the fewer trees on both sides. Instead, there were some buildings and terraces. Furthermore, there were more and more people. Many inner sect disciples looked at the three of them with interest. Elder Fang led the three of them through the buildings and houses. Finally, they stopped in front of a building. Lin Xian looked up. In front of him was an octagonal pavilion. There were 3 floors and each floor was 50 to 60 feet tall. Above the main entrance of the first floor, there was a black plaque. On it, there were 3 large golden words, Martial Skills Pavilion. These 3 words were written forcefully and deeply, and they emanated a grand imposing aura that caused others to feel awestruck just by looking at it. Old man Mo, an old friend is here to see you. Elder Fang laughed. Whoosh. As Elder Fang's words fell, Lin Xian and the other 2 felt their vision blur. When they blinked again, they found that a somewhat hunchbacked old man in gray was standing in front of them. The 3 of them were shocked. They did not see where the hunchbacked old man came from. It was as if he had appeared out of thin air. Moreover, the hunchbacked old man looked like an ordinary person. There was nothing special about him. Alchemy maniac Fang, you're still willing to come out of your alchemy room? The hunchbacked old man laughed and scolded. Why did you bring 3 little babies? Old Mo, I'm here on official business. These 3 disciples are the top 3 of this year's tournament. According to the rules, they will enter the martial skills pavilion to choose a profound class skill. Arrange it for them. Humph, I was wondering why an alchemy maniac like you was willing to come out. It turns out that you have a mission. The hunchbacked old man snorted, if you don't drink with me today, I'll eat all your pills in 2 days. Without waiting for Elder Fang's response, the hunchbacked old man said to Lin Xian and the other 2, you 3 go to the first floor. According to your ranking, each of you will choose a martial skill. The time limit is 1 incense stick. Lin Xian and the other 2 respectfully agreed. Then they excitedly walked into the martial skills pavilion. Pushing open the vermilion door, Lin Xian walked in. Inside were rows of bookshelves, but there was no one. In the entire hall of the first floor there were only Lin Xian and the other 2. It seems that the martial skills pavilion is open on a daily basis. Let's hurry and find a suitable martial skill. Duan Fei said. The 3 did not delay and began to busy themselves. Lin Xian walked to a row of bookshelves and picked up a book to read. However, he found that there was only a name and a brief introduction. There was not a single word about the cultivation content. After thinking for a moment, he understood. The martial skills pavilion was an important place in the sect. Of course, it would not easily place martial skills here. It should be that the inner sect disciples chose a martial skill according to the brief introduction, and the elders would teach them the real cultivation content. Lin Xian sorted out his situation and found that he did not need to change his swordsmanship for the time being. The thunderclap sword art was still his strongest martial skill. For the time being, he did not need a new swordsmanship. As for the footwork and body refining martial skills, he cultivated them to the middle yellow rank. Moreover, he had cultivated them to the great perfection stage. As his cultivation increased, these 2 martial skills fell behind. Whether it was footwork or body refining martial skills, Lin Xian decided to choose footwork. He did not particularly need body refining martial skills, but in terms of footwork he fell behind by a lot. If he encountered a speed-type disciple like Duan Fei, he would not have any advantage. Chapter 63. On the first floor of the martial skill pavilion, most of them were low-level profound rank martial arts. Only a small portion were mid-level profound rank martial arts. Lin Xian quickly flipped through them and searched for them according to his own characteristics. Crane Shadow Steps low-level profound rank martial arts. Created by imitating the movements of flying demonic birds to hunt. Nimble and fast. Able to cross a river on a reed when practiced to large success. Traceless Steps mid-level profound rank martial arts. Graceful and agile. Able to walk on snow without leaving a trace when practiced to large success. Suddenly, the name of a book attracted his attention. Phantom Thunder Steps mid-level profound rank martial arts. Able to cultivate to large success. Speed is like thunder. Able to use thunder and lightning to leave behind afterimages in the air. It is difficult to distinguish between real and fake. Can also detonate afterimages to attack enemies. Note, this cultivation technique requires thunder attribute. Also, its difficulty far surpasses ordinary mid-level profound rank martial arts. Must be chosen carefully. Although it was only a few sentences, it clearly introduced the advantages and disadvantages of this movement technique. Lin Xian just happened to have thunder attribute spirit energy. This phantom thunder steps was very suitable for him. After making up his mind, Lin Xian didn't look at anything else. He looked around and found that Duan Fei and Shengguan Luyun were still searching. Thus he took the book and walked out of the door. Elder Fang, Elder Mo, disciple has already chosen. Lin Xian saw the 2 elders as soon as he walked out, so he said respectfully, "Oh, so fast." The 2 elders were slightly surprised. The first floor of the martial skill pavilion contained thousands of martial arts, and they were all profound rank cultivation techniques. Ordinary disciples would be fascinated by the variety of martial arts inside when they went for the first time. But this little guy in front of them didn't even take half an incense stick of time to choose. How could the 2 not be surprised? This child's temperament is very decisive. Not bad, not bad. Elder Fang smiled and nodded. In addition to a martial artist's own talent, belief and character were also very important. Lin Xian was a very decisive person, which made Elder Fang very gratified. "Little kid, let me see what you chose." Elder Mo was also curious. Lin Xian originally planned to ask the 2 elders for the cultivation method of the Phantom Thunder Steps. Now that he heard Elder Mo's words, he straightforwardly handed it over. It's actually the Phantom Thunder Steps? Elder Emo was surprised. He looked at Lin Xian in surprise and said in a low voice, "You are a Thunder Attribute martial artist." Yes. Lin Xian nodded. All the disciples who had watched the competition knew about this, and he had no intention of hiding it. After all, only by displaying a certain level of strength would the sect vigorously nurture you. At that moment he stretched out his palm and activated his cultivation technique. A layer of faint golden light surged onto his palm. Tiny golden arcs of electricity shuttled back and forth continuously, emitting a faint sound of thunder. Golden lightning? Elder Hiroshi was even more surprised. Normal lightning was blue and the more powerful ones were purple. However, this golden lightning arc was very rare. Furthermore, he felt a sense of familiarity from it, but he couldn't recall what it was. Although this Mirage Thunder Steps is a middle profound rank martial art, it's even harder to train than a high profound rank martial art. You have to think clearly and not waste your time. Elder Mo reminded. Many thanks for old Mo's reminder. This disciple is confident that he can master this Phantom Thunder Steps. Lin Xian said gratefully. Elder Mo nodded and didn't say anything else. Lin Xian held the book and waited by the side. The second to come out was Shangguan Luyun. When he saw Lin Xian he was stunned for a moment. It was as if he didn't expect Lin Xian to come out earlier than him. When the time was almost up, Duan Fei came out. At this point, the three of them had finished choosing their cultivation techniques. Elder Mo brought the three of them to the side door of the Martial Skills Pavilion, then took out 3 copies and handed them to the three of them. Following that, his face sank. Suddenly, an aura surged out from his body. It was like 100,000 mountains, making it hard for people to breathe. He said in a deep voice, "The cultivation techniques of the Martial Skills Pavilion can only be trained by yourself. You cannot pass it on to others. Otherwise you will be punished according to the sect rules." This aura made people feel a sense of despair. No one would have thought that this seemingly ordinary old man would have such a profound cultivation. Lin Xian and the other two nodded in agreement and promised that they would not leak it out. Elder Mo's face relaxed, and the pressure faded away like a tide. Lin Xian and the other two received the martial arts. Under Elder Fang's lead, they returned to the outer sect. Lin Xian bid farewell to Elder Fang and Duan Fei and returned to his residence. He stroked the ring on his finger and pondered. The 3 rewards for first place were too important to him. First of all, this storage ring would make it very convenient for him to travel in the future. Although it was only a low-grade human-level storage ring, it was enough for Lin Xian. In about 10 cubic meters of space, there were only these 2 things. One was a small white porcelain bottle. Inside it was a 3rd-grade spirit-gathering pill. The other was a middle-grade mystic-ranked martial art, Phantom Thunder Steps. With a thought, the small white porcelain bottle appeared in his hand. This pill that could raise one's cultivation by a small stage made him very excited. As for when to use it, he was a little hesitant. I have just advanced to the 6th rank of the meridian condensing stage. If I continue to advance, it will cause my cultivation to become unstable. It is not good for me. It is better to keep it and wait until it stabilizes before using it. The effect will be better. Moreover, if I encounter danger, this pill is also a life-saving method. Thinking of this, Lin Xian turned his palm and put away the small white porcelain bottle. He then took out the Phantom Thunder Steps and carefully read it. After half an incense stick of time, he put down the book, his face uncertain. The book was right, it was really difficult to practice. This was his first time coming into contact with a high-grade mystic-ranked martial art. He didn't know how difficult a high-grade mystic-ranked martial art was, but he knew that this Phantom Thunder Steps was much more difficult than the Thunderclap Sword art. The Thunderclap Sword art was a high-grade yellow-level martial art. Its difficulty lay in precise control and abnormal speed. Moreover, Wine Lord had said that the Thunderclap Sword art in his hand was only a simplified version. The true Thunderclap Sword art's power was infinite. With one sword, thunder from the 9 heavens would descend. The Phantom Thunder Steps and the Thunderclap Sword art were similar in terms of speed. However, it also had a unique aspect. It was the word phantom. It used the power of thunder to condense an afterimage. Not only could it confuse the enemy, but it could also be used as a means of attack. In other words, thunder was the core and illusion was the means. Lin Xian had grasped the core. As long as he learned all the means, this Phantom Thunder Steps would be considered a success. It seems that attributes are really important. Lin Xian sighed. As long as he had the core attribute, he would be able to achieve twice the result with half the effort when learning other martial arts of the same attribute. Wine Lord said that my secret art of long life can transform into any attribute. What kind of cultivation method is this secret art of long life? Lin Xian really wanted to know, but Wine Lord was currently in a deep sleep. Even if he asked, that guy probably wouldn't tell him. Let's not worry about this for now. I'll try to master the Phantom Thunder steps first. Lin Xian decided. When he said goodbye to Elder Fong, he learned that the third stage would begin in 5 days. In other words, he had 5 days to practice the Phantom Thunder steps to the entry stage. After sailing for about 6 to 8 hours, the ship gradually slowed down. Many disciples stood up, knowing that they were about to reach their destination. In the last part of the journey, the ship slowed down, allowing Lin Xian and the others to see the scene below. However, the scene gave them a fright. Below them was a city. To be exact, it was a city that had been destroyed. Half of the 10-meter city wall had collapsed, and most of the buildings in the city were almost destroyed. There were broken stones and bones everywhere, and there was also a glaring scarlet color. The outer sect disciples were all stunned by the scene before them. After a while, someone muttered, "This is a city that was invaded by demonic beasts. We have arrived at the front line of the war." What? The front line of the war? Many people exclaimed. The Great Xia Kingdom was not peaceful, especially the areas that were in contact with the primeval forest. There were often wars, and Lin Xian and the others must have come to a battlefield. We are so weak. How can we defeat those demonic beasts? Aren't they sending us to our deaths? Someone said unhappily. Yeah, I don't want to be eaten by demonic beasts. Many disciples said. Shut up, a bunch of trash. Jiang Yulong said coldly in the crowd. I don't think the sect will send us directly to the front line. Everyone don't be impatient, Duan Fei said in a low voice. Lin Xian looked at the ruined scene on the ground, and his mood was slightly gloomy. This was a cruel world. The weak would be eaten and only the strong could survive. Suddenly, his eyebrows twitched and he quickly turned around. The muscles on his body were all tensed up, and he stared at the sky with a serious expression. A sharp cry rang out, shaking everyone's eardrums and making them dizzy. The outer sect disciples all channeled their spiritual power to resist. At the same time, a layer of light green energy shield appeared on the ship, covering the entire ship. So scary. What is that sound? Everyone was shocked. Whoosh. A huge shadow was cast on the ship, and a large gray bird that was more than 10 meters long came to the top of everyone's heads and swooped down. Damn, it's an iron-clawed eagle. It's so big it's already beyond the pulse condensation stage. Someone recognized the strange bird above their heads. Boom. The pair of silver claws hit the green energy shield, causing it to shake. However, the green energy shield was only slightly deformed, and then it was as good as new. At this time, the cabin door opened and a square-faced middle-aged man walked out. Behind him were 2 young men in their 20s. Evil beast. The square-faced middle-aged man looked at the iron-clawed eagle above his head and snorted. Then, a sword light lit up like a red waterfall, and instantly pierced the chest of the iron-clawed eagle, leaving it 2-meter-long wound. Blood splattered in the air and gray feathers fluttered in the air. The iron-clawed eagle screeched miserably and quickly flew away. What a terrifying sword. Lin Xian looked at the square-faced middle-aged man with fear. The sword just now was too sharp, and it could almost kill a group of outer sect disciples. After repelling the iron-clawed eagle, the square-faced middle-aged man said lightly, I'm the person in charge this time. You can call me Elder Gu. This time the content of your assessment is a battle, a real battle. I will send you to a small battlefield. There are no demonic beasts inside, only some fierce beasts. Their strength is similar to yours and your task is to kill these fierce beasts. After you kill the fierce beasts, you need to cut off their left ears as proof. Finally, you will be ranked according to the number of beasts killed. Chapter 65. After 10 breaths, no one backed out. Cultivation was to go against the heavens and seize one's life. In addition, there were no real demonic beasts in the test. Hence, none of the disciples chose to back out. That's good. Remember your choice. Elder Goose smiled cheerfully. The big ship landed on an open space. This was a human stronghold. There were no demonic beasts around. The disciples disembarked and waited for the test. The other two big ships also stopped. The disciples on the ships quickly jumped off and walked towards the stronghold, completely ignoring Lin Xian and the rest. They are true warriors. If you can enter the inner sect, you may become one of them in the future, Elder Gu said. Now you will automatically be divided into 4 groups. Each group will go to a small battlefield. You will live there for 3 days. Enjoy the rest of your life. Elder Gu smiled. Then 4 young men in purple robes walked out. Each of them was in their 20s. Their auras were far stronger than the disciples. Each of them led a group and ran towards the ruins. Lin Xian was in the 3rd group. The leader was called Yan Qing. His cultivation had reached the spiritual sea realm. His aura was unfathomable. The place you are going to is called Battlefield number 3. It is in the west of the original city. There are no demonic beasts there, only ferocious beasts, Yan Qing said. The highest level is rank 3. I suggest you form a group. We're here. Yan Qing stopped in front of a tall building. Battlefield number 3 was just ahead. Remember, don't enter the forest. I will come back to pick you up in 3 days. Yan Qing said and left, leaving the group of disciples standing there alone. Whoa! In the distance, the roar of a beast could be heard. Lin Xian's group of 25 people included Yin Qingyi, Hua Yangping, Luo Yi, and the rest. These people's strength varied. Each of them had their own small groups. After Yan Qing left, these small groups immediately took action. Luo Yi bid farewell to Lin Xian and left with the members of the combat group. Let's go, Lin Xian said to Yin Qingyi, who was beside him. Ah, just the 2 of us? Yin Qingyi whispered. Don't worry. The 2 of us are enough, Lin Xian said with a smile. The 2 of them used their movement techniques and advanced toward the depths of number 3. The 3rd stage was a test of hunting ferocious beasts. The more ferocious beasts one hunted, the higher one's ranking would be. The ranking in the 3rd stage would determine the distribution of resources after entering the inner sect. Therefore, if he wanted to have a good time after entering the inner sect, he had to kill as many ferocious beasts as possible. Lin Xian's cultivation was at the 6th level of the meridian condensing stage, and Yin Qingyi was at the peak of the 5th level. Moreover, she was a sword array master and was very suited for teamwork. What sword formations do you know? Lin Xian asked. He had to understand before making a decision. Yes, I know the illusory sword formation for energy transfer, the silver light sword formation for attack, and the bright moon sword formation for defense, Yin Qingyi said. I'll lure the fierce beasts in a while, then you use the silver light sword array to attack them. Lin Xian made a plan and then went to find the fierce beasts. Vicious beasts weren't too strong. Generally, a rank 3 vicious beast was equivalent to a rank 7 meridian condensing period, a rank 2 vicious beast was equivalent to a rank 6 meridian condensing period, and a rank 1 vicious beast was equivalent to a rank 5 meridian condensing period. However, these ferocious beasts were very ferocious, and their bodies had a very heavy killing intent. If one was timid, their legs would probably go soft from fear. Lin Xian observed for a while and found that the fierce beasts here were usually in packs, and most of them were more than 5. If it was a single person, it wouldn't be easy to deal with them. He found that 6 rank 1 vicious beasts, crimson flame wolves, had fur that was like flames, burning fiercely. Lin Xian used the phantom thunder step, turning into an afterimage as he rushed over. Without needing him to do anything, these crimson flame wolves bared their fangs and pounced on him. Their sharp claws left streaks of cold light in the air, incomparably swift and fierce. Lin Xian nimbly passed by the 6 crimson flame wolves, and then led them to the trap. The 6 crimson flame wolves chased after him like crazy. In their eyes, Lin Xian was a very delicious meal. Silver light sword array. Lin Xian led them closer and then shouted at Yin Qingyi. A silver light was inserted in the middle of the crimson flame wolves, forming a sword array that was about 10 feet long. Yin Qingyi's face was tense as she activated the sword art. Suddenly, dozens of silver sword rays appeared in the sword array, whistling as they pierced towards the crimson flame wolves. Whoa! The 6 crimson flame wolves were attacked, and the fur on their bodies immediately stood up. Like burning flames, they pounced on Yin Qingyi fiercely. Bang! Lin Xian attacked from the side, and with a slash of his sword, a crimson flame wolf fell to the ground. After smelling the fresh blood, the remaining 5 crimson flame wolves seemed to be stimulated and became abnormally violent. Soon they rushed out of the sword array. 3 of them pounced on Lin Xian, and 2 came in front of Yin Qingyi, opening their mouths to bite her. Yin Qingyi's small face was pale with fright. With a wave of her small hand, she hurriedly used the bright moon sword array. Behind her, A silver moon was faintly discernible, and the bright moonlight formed a protective shield protecting her. Bang! Bang! Two crimson flame wolves collided with the silver moon and bounced back violently, letting out mournful cries. However, they quickly got up and pounced on Qingyi again. Qingyi gritted her teeth and used the silver light sword array again. The two arrays were used at the same time, and immediately injured the two crimson flame wolves. On the other side, Lin Xian fought three crimson flame wolves alone with ease. Golden electric arcs flashed under his feet, and he shuttled between the three crimson flame wolves. The crimson flame sword in his hand stabbed rapidly, and he could kill a crimson flame wolf in 2 or 3 strokes. In the blink of an eye, the three crimson flame wolves were easily killed by Lin Xian. He cut off their left ears and then looked at Qingyi. Under the two sword arrays, the two crimson flame wolves did not hurt Qingyi. Instead, more and more wounds appeared on their bodies, and they were gradually unable to hold on. Poof! A crimson flame wolf's throat was pierced by the silver light, and it fell to the ground dead. The other ferocious beast was also pierced. It roared unwillingly and then it fell to the ground, unable to get up. Lin Xian gave Qingyi a thumbs up and then walked over with a smile. Looks like the third stage isn't that difficult. At our speed we should be able to kill many ferocious beasts. Qingyi nodded. At the same time, the other disciples also killed some ferocious beasts. They worked together and soon killed the ferocious beast. Looks like these ferocious beasts aren't that powerful. A disciple laughed. That's right. When I enter the inner sect, I'll come to the front line of the battlefield to earn some battle merits. The disciples talked and laughed. In their opinion, the third stage was much easier than the previous 2 stages. A whoa! A wolf's howl pierced through the sky, and it sounded sad and distant. Let's go kill the ferocious beasts and enter the inner sect. The disciples were excited. However, it did not take long for them to realize that something was wrong. As the wolf's howl fell, a large number of figures suddenly appeared around the ruins. One by one, the crimson flame wolves stuck out their long tongues. They stared coldly at the Black Heaven sect disciples and walked toward them step by step. Chapter 66. Countless red flame wolves surrounded the disciples. As far as the eye could see, it was a sea of red. Oh no, retreat! The disciples' faces changed as they retreated in fear. If they were trapped here, the consequences would be unimaginable. On the other side, Lin Xian and Qingyi were facing the same situation. Hundreds of red flame wolves stared at the two of them and growled. Oh no, we were too careless. Lin Xian's face was grave. He stuck close to Qingyi and retreated quickly. Oh whoa! Dozens of red flame wolves at the front pounced on them. Their sharp claws danced in the air, aiming for their heads, chests, and other vital points. Courting death. Lin Xian swung the red flame sword in his hand. Golden lightning whizzed out and pierced through the red flame wolves in the sky. The powerful electricity contained in the lightning caused the red flame wolves to go numb. Their bodies stiffened instantly. Plop, plop, plop. The red flame wolves fell to the ground, their fur charred black. They twitched continuously. Lin Xian finished off 10 crimson flame wolves with a single stroke in the blink of an eye. He and Qingyi leaped backward with all their might. In the next moment, the red flame wolves howled and chased after Lin Xian and Qingyi. Not only the two of them but all the disciples on the battlefield were attacked. At this point, the outer disciples realized that the battlefield was not as simple as they thought. Killing 1 or 2 ferocious beasts did not mean anything. The most important thing was to survive in the midst of these beasts. This was also the predicament that humans were facing. Although the demonic beasts did not know martial arts, they were numerous. If it was a protracted battle, humans would not be able to afford it. Moreover, there were demonic beasts above the ferocious beast. Some of the stronger demonic beasts could even transform into human form and contend with the experts of the human race. Swoosh! Lin Xian and Qingyi squeezed into a collapsed building. The narrow entrance blocked the pack of crimson flame wolves. Phew! We are safe for now. Lin Xian wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. The situation just now was very dangerous. If they had run any slower and been surrounded by the wolves, there would only be one outcome. What should we do now? Qingyi asked nervously. Let's wait. Logically speaking, the content of the test shouldn't be so abnormal. No one can complete it under such circumstances. Lin Xian guessed, perhaps we've encountered a special situation. If that's the case, I believe the sect will soon send reinforcements. Qingyi nodded and found a clean place to sit down. However, not long after, there was a loud bang. The hole that Lin Xian had blocked with a rock was suddenly blasted open, and a ferocious scarlet flame wolf rushed in. Lin Xian waved his arm, and the giant sword struck out horizontally, sending the crimson flame wolf flying, and just happened to knock away a few hungry wolves that wanted to come in. Qing Yi used the sword formation to block the entrance. Lin Xian hurriedly called out. Yin Qingyi pinched out a sword madra with her palm. A 3-foot-long sword was inserted at the entrance of the cave. A circular sword formation was divided into 2 halves by the entrance. One half was inside and the other half was outside. The silver sword rays were like silver snakes, dancing in the sword formation. Each time they would pierce through a scarlet flame wolf. However, the fresh blood made the wolf pack even more frenzied. A scarlet flame wolf fell, but more of them rushed towards the entrance of the cave. Soon, the corpses of the wolves outside piled up into a small mountain, blocking the entrance of the cave. Yin Qingyi was sweating profusely, and her little face was flushed red. She was extremely adorable. Lin Xian handed her a recovery elixir and let her rest. It won't be long before you break through to the 6th level of the meridian condensing stage. Lin Xian looked at Yin Qingyi and said, "Yes, the bottleneck has loosened a lot." Yin Qingyi nodded obediently. "This is my first time activating the sword formation for such a long time. Have a good rest," Lin Xian said with a smile. Yin Qingyi put away the sword formation, and then sat cross-legged on the ground to adjust her breathing. Her delicate body was suffused with a faint glow, as bright as the moonlight. Lin Xian did not disturb her. Instead, he looked around the small space. There were many tables and chairs as well as a few broken stone pillars. The ground was covered with a carpet made of animal skin. It looked like it used to be a place of wealth. Lin Xian observed for a while but did not find anything of value. Then he retracted his gaze. Beside him, the glow on Yin Qingyi's body grew brighter and brighter. It was as if a silver moon had wrapped around her. Is she about to break through? Lin Xian's lips curled up. Boom. At this moment there was a loud noise outside. The corpses of the scarlet flame wolves were torn apart and scattered to the sides. The entrance of the cave has been opened? Lin Xian's face darkened. He grabbed the scarlet flame sword and in a flash he came to the entrance of the cave. You just need to break through. I'm here, Lin Xian said in a low voice. Lin Xian's words caused Yin Qingyi's delicate body to tremble behind him. Her spiritual energy, which had been somewhat chaotic, immediately stabilized. Lin Xian felt the change behind him and only then did he relax. He looked outside the cave with rapt attention, and he sucked in a breath of cold air. Through the cracks in the rocks he saw a huge scarlet flame wolf outside the cave. It was 3 times the size of an ordinary scarlet flame wolf, and it was staring fiercely at the entrance of the cave. This huge scarlet flame wolf had a strong murderous aura on its body. There was also a faint trace of demon aura. The surrounding wolves all lowered their heads in front of it and whimpered. This aura? Lin Xian's heart skipped a beat. This is a level 3 dire beast. A level 3 dire beast was equivalent to a level 7 condensing meridian cultivator. Moreover, it was more ferocious and difficult to deal with than an ordinary level 7 cultivator. This should be the leader of the wolf pack. I'm afraid it won't be easy to deal with. Lin Xian's thunder and lightning spiritual energy was ready to be released. As soon as the leader wolf made a move, he would immediately draw his sword. Whoa! The leader wolf's dark green eyes were filled with a cold light. Its entire body was arched, and the murderous aura on its body was mixed with a trace of demon aura, enveloping it. Lin Xian did not dare to act rashly. If he broke this wall, Yin Qingyi behind him would be in danger. He could only intimidate the leader wolf now and stall for time. As long as Yin Qingyi succeeded in her advancement, everything would be easy to deal with. That's right, try my sword essence. Lin Xian's lips curled up. He slowly injected spiritual energy into the seed of sword essence, and then slowly activated it. In the next moment, a fierce aura burst out from his body. Lin Xian seemed to have turned into a bolt of golden lightning, filled with a dangerous aura. The golden electric current ran in all directions in the air, wanting to tear everything apart. Whoa! The huge leader wolf kept stomping on the ground with its 4 limbs, and its eyes were filled with fear. The originally ferocious leader wolf became as docile as a puppy in front of Lin Xian. Chapter 67. The body of the alpha wolf, which was the size of a buffalo, was split in half and fell to the ground. Inside the cave, Lin Xian closed his eyes and took a deep breath. That sword just now allowed him to experience a trace of the concept of thunder and lightning. It was incomparably mysterious. Outside the cave, the death of the alpha wolf caused the surrounding crimson flame wolves to panic. They all retreated, not daring to move forward. Far away from the third battlefield, there was a red-haired youth riding a crimson flame demon wolf. This wolf was about the same size as an ordinary crimson flame wolf, but the aura it emitted was stronger than the alpha wolf. Moreover, it emitted traces of demonic energy. It was actually a demonic beast. And on top of this demonic beast there was actually a youth. If one looked closely, they would find that this red-haired youth was different from a normal human. First of all, his eyes were actually dark green like two balls of fire, burning and jumping. Behind him there was a red tail like a red flame that kept swaying. Beside the red-haired youth there was another person. His entire body was covered in a black robe, and his appearance could not be seen clearly. However, his voice was very young. The Black Sky sect is one of the 3 sects of the Cloud State. If we can capture all of their disciples in one fell swoop, it will be a big blow to them. The black-robed person said. Don't worry. This time, I summoned a total of 4 rank 3 ferocious beasts and countless crimson flame wolves. It's enough to deal with these outer sect disciples. The red-haired youth rode on the demonic beast and said casually. If this matter succeeds, Father will be happy. Yu Ming, thank you so much this time. The red-haired youth's voice had a trace of excitement. The black-robed person called Yu Ming laughed softly and said, It's Yu Ming's honor to be able to serve young Master Chi Yu. The youth called Chi Yu grabbed the fur of the crimson flame demon wolf and looked into the distance with a proud expression. Suddenly his expression froze. What's wrong? Yu Ming asked beside him. A rank 3 crimson flame wolf died. Chi Yu was in disbelief. Damn it, they can actually kill a rank 3 ferocious beast. It shouldn't be. Logically speaking, a rank 3 alpha wolf should have at least a few hundred crimson flame wolves around it. This kind of power, a rank 6 meridian condensing stage cultivator wouldn't dare to resist, no matter how many people there are. Only a cultivator whose cultivation has reached the 8th step or higher would be able to kill the alpha wolf. Could it be that an inner disciple of the Black Heaven sect is here? The black-robed man Yu Ming guessed. He actually dared to kill my subordinate in front of me. He truly deserves to die. Chi Yu said hatefully. Yu Ming, come with me to take a look. No. The black-robed Netherworld King stopped the young man from moving. We've mobilized so many wolf packs. We've definitely attracted the attention of the Black Heaven sect. If we go out now, we'll be sending ourselves to their doorstep. Red Moon seemed to know that he could not be reckless. He gritted his teeth and said, Launch another round of attacks and then retreat. Then he patted the crimson flame demon wolf beneath him. The demonic beast raised its head to the sky and howled like a wolf. When the scarlet flame wolves on the battlefield heard this howl, they all bared their teeth and became abnormally violent. Many disciples were injured by these wolves and some even lost their lives. However, most of the disciples were like Lin Xian, hiding in the dilapidated buildings and waiting for the sect to rescue them. In a stronghold near the battlefield, a few purple-robed youths rushed in. Elder Gu, this is bad. There are suddenly many scarlet flame wolves in the trial battlefield, and they're all led by level 3 ferocious beasts. I'm afraid this is a premeditated attack. Elder Gu stood up abruptly. The scarlet flame wolves are attacking. Quickly send people to rescue those disciples. He knew how terrifying a wolf pack was. Moreover, these trial disciples had never truly experienced the cruelty of war. There was no way they could stop the ferocious wolf pack. Elder Gu personally moved out and gathered the disciples on the other 2 spirit ships. They cooperated with the purple-robed youths and entered the 4 trial battlefields. Battlefield number 3 inside the ruins of the building. The light on Yin Qingyi's body faded, and a powerful spiritual energy belonging to a level 6 meridian condensing realm was emitted. Her long eyelashes fluttered slightly, and then she opened her eyes. In front of her was a sturdy figure, standing tall like a mountain. A senior brother Lin. Yin Qingyi called out softly. Poof. Lin Xian killed a frenzied scarlet flame wolf with a slash of his sword, then turned his head and said, You're awake. Congratulations on advancing. Yin Qingyi looked at the wolf corpses at the entrance of the cave, her heart full of gratitude. Senior brother Lin actually fought against so many scarlet flame wolves alone in order to protect me. She walked gently behind Lin Xian, then drew her long sword, preparing to fight against the wolf pack with Lin Xian. Let's go, let's charge out. Lin Xian said. If other disciples were here, their jaws would definitely drop. Everyone else was hiding from the wolf pack, but Lin Xian actually wanted to charge out. This was simply courting death. But Yin Qingyi only nodded vigorously. She raised her small hand slightly, and a silver sword light shot out of the cave. Silver light sword array. After entering level 6 meridian condensing realm, Yin Qingyi's silver light sword array's range had doubled. It was more than 30 feet wide, and its attack power had increased significantly. The silver light danced like a waterfall, strangling the scarlet flame wolves in the sword array. Lin Xian and Yin Qingyi also rushed out of the cave in a flash. Qingyi, you preside over the sword array. Leave the rest to me. Lin Xian said. Okay. Yin Qingyi's small hands formed a seal again, and a bright moon appeared behind her. Bright moon sword array. With the two arrays combined, it had both offense and defense. Yin Qingyi stood outside the cave, urging the sword array. Phantom thunder step. Lin Xian transformed into a golden bolt of lightning, shuttling through the wolf pack. He did not kill them directly. Against countless wolves, Lin Xian's thunderclap sword art was fast, but it took a lot of effort to urge it over a long period of time. He only sent the scarlet flame wolves flying, then threw them into the silver light sword array. It had to be said that a group attack like the sword array was very effective in this situation. All the scarlet flame wolves that entered the silver light sword array were mercilessly pierced through by the silver sword light. At this time, the silver light sword array was like a meat grinder, crazily harvesting the scarlet flame wolves. Gradually, the wolf corpses in the sword array piled up into a small hill. In a flash, Lin Xian came to the periphery of the sword array and punched out. The golden fist whizzed out, forming a fierce fist wind, sending the scarlet flame wolf corpses on the ground flying. Then he continued to throw the remaining scarlet flame wolves into the sword array. In the other 3 battlefields, Shangguan Luyun and the other outer sect 4 heroes also gathered some disciples and fought with all their might. However, the scarlet flame wolves they killed were not even 1/10 of Lin Xian's. Moreover, they still had to face the threat of the leader wolf. However, this situation did not last long. Soon the sect support team rushed over. There was a support team in each battlefield, consisting of a young man in a purple robe and 30 inner sect disciples. They were like a sharp knife, quickly stabbing into the wolf pack and tearing open a gap. Many disciples were rescued and joined them. In the end, except for the disciples who died, the rest of the outer sect disciples were rescued by the support team. Lin Xian is in this battlefield, but we haven't found him yet. An outer sect disciple said. Lin Xian, #1 in the arena battle, could he? That you're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.